Prova. Okay. So, it's time to start with the afternoon session of today's workshop. Just a little reminder, I will be your moderator today, and I will deliver the announcements in English and Japanese. But all the presentations will be in English only. そろそろ午後のセッションを始めたいと思います。午前セッションと同様、私がいた英語と日本語で発表者を紹介いたしますが、プレゼンテーションは英語のみで行われております。Just as the morning session was opened with a scenario analysis on the theme of overtourism, this afternoon will also begin with a framework presentation, this time dedicated to rural and gastronomy tourism. The analysis will be presented by Roberta Garibaldi and is titled Rural and Gastronomy Tourism, Models and Impacts. 午前のセッションがオーバーツーリズムに関するシナリオ分析から始まったように、午後のセッションもまずは理論的枠組みの提示からスタートいたします。今回は農村観光及びガストロノミーツーリズムに終点を当てた内容となっております。この分析はベルガモ大学のガリバルディ先生によって行われ、タイトルは農村ガストロノミーツーリズムモデルとその影響となります。どうぞよろしくお願いします。
Thank you. So it's a pleasure to open this afternoon that I'm sure that will be full of inspiring information, and so we can analyze the main trends regarding food and wine tourism, are main trends that we can see worldwide, but I give you some insights that we collect in Italy. As every year I publish a report on food and wine tourism in Italy, and so I can see what is happening from 2016, because every year with the same methodology I collect the data, and so I saw the great increase in attention that we had that we can see, and we can on food and wine experiences by the tourist. And we saw this morning international tourism. Here we can see the data of Italian. So Italians love to discover gastronomic experiences. They know that we have an enormous richness regarding food and wine, and so they love to do it in Italy, but otherwise they do abroad too. And we are in a situation of growing international tourists in Italy and a decrease regarding Italian tourists. That is something that is not very good, and it can be a sign of overtourism, because we have an increasing prices, and so we have the salary that are fixed in Italy from a lot of time, and so there is less possibility from the Italians to go to have long leisure time, and so this impact on the number of local tourists, and this can be one of the negative effects of overtourism. So here we can see the data of this morning regarding the interest of European people, and here we can see the interest regarding Italy as a gastronomic destination. This is a research done in Germany, not an Italian research, where we can see that Italy is considered from European countries and the US the most desired gastronomic destination. And here you can see Japan, that is the third place for France and the fifth place for Spain, and instead the first place for China. And instead we can see that Italy is fifth place. Surely the Chinese know better Japan than Italy regarding this kind of experience. Here you can see participation in gastronomic activities during holidays in Italy over the past 3 years by market, and so you can see here the different kind of gastronomic experiences, and people from Germany, UK, US, and Italian tourists. We did this research at the beginning of this year, and so we have some comparable data from these countries. So here you can see willingness to enjoy a gastronomic holiday in Italy during future travels. And here we can see what happened in choosing the different Italian regions. Surely Tuscany is the most desired gastronomic destination. It's a brand worldwide. In fact, we did this kind of research in the world several times, and we saw Italy and Tuscany usually is the only region that we can see mentioned by tourists worldwide. So we try to analyze the economic impact of gastronomic tourism in Italy, and it's over 40 billion euros. And then we have a 7.9 multiplicator. So every euro that we put in this sector, it creates 6.9 euro of benefit. I try to collect some data regarding the impact on food and wine tourism in different other regions, and so we can see the situation of a museum regarding food and wine destination, and so if you have some data regarding this in Japan, I will be happy to have if you did some research of this kind. So, which are the most important trends that we can see around Italy and around the world? The growth of rural and inland destination. As we saw this morning, there is a great interest to have natural landscape research. It's the first place for all the European tourists. And we can see here the situation. In Italy, we have a great concentration in some cities, as we saw this morning, but surely we have a growing interest of international tourists in inner areas too. In fact, if we see, we have more than 48 million of nights spent of tourist accommodation establishment in the inner areas of international tourists. Is really more than Spain, where we can see in this situation only 6.5 million, and France only 28 million. So we have a great attention from international tourists in the inner areas. So it could be more easy than for other destinations to invest in inner areas. And we can see international attention to these areas too. These are data of trip.com that we can see on China, and you can see the increase of different destinations and the increase of different months. And then it's good insights that can show that we are moving with our strategy in a good way. So we can see in Italy an decreasing interest using car doing tourism, and instead an increasing attention related to train, and an increasing attention that we had relating to bicycle that doubled during COVID time and is going on to increase. And so we like to have more sustainable transportation. Unfortunately, I have to say, in Italy, we don't have the train that you have in Japan, that are fantastic train. But I know that you have, I don't know, you can tell me later, great train on main destination, but perhaps not to the rural areas. And that is a focal point, and to analyze which can be the situation and how to organize better the transportation to the rural areas. And this is surely an important topic. Which, for the Italian, which is the most iconic Italian product? Wine. I saw that a lot of people like to taste Italian wine. Surely it is one, for the Italian too, is the most iconic product. Now we are in a great, in a difficult situation regarding the world of wine in Italy, but worldwide, because a lot of people, I saw this week in Australia, a great advice regarding not to take alcohol because it's dangerous for health. And so this is something that can create problem related to the world of wine. And so, for example, in Spain, are starting a very big research, try to see that if you have a good quantity of wine, it is not dangerous for health. And so it's just the theme of quantity, okay? And then we have pizza, pasta, and oil. So, which are for the Italians the reason for a trip, the kind of experience that could be a reason for a trip. At first, we have dining experience at restaurant, but we see with just a little difference, visits to production sites. So we saw a great increase of attention regarding to this in the last years. And so it's almost like experiences in restaurant. And we see an increasing attention to active experiences. So I want to be active. I want to collect olive from the tree, and to collect the grapes to do the wine. And so I want to be active. And a lot of attention in taste museums. So we can see that we have more attention to the tourism regarding the number of experience that is possible to have in Italy. So we can see that we can go on this topic in next years. And we saw from research to the Italians and worldwide a great interest in the theme of chocolate. And quite people of Germany, UK, US love to visit the place of production of chocolate, and we don't have enough places open to see these kind of things. So, type of gastronomic and wine experiences sought during trips, and you can see here the detail. If you want, at the end, I give you the QR code to have all this data so you can see, analyze it in deeply. So, elements that make the gastronomic and wine experience authentic. Taste traditional dishes made slowly with local ingredients. So, we have to give one theme of touristification is that we miss the authenticity of food and the local recipes and local producers. And this is something that we have to preserve because it's at the first place for all the tourists. So, second trend is events. We saw last year Taylor Swift music tour worldwide, Olympic Games, Expo. And so events can be motivation of travel. And then it's very important to work on this in gastronomic tourism too, because this can create motivation for a journey in the months that we love to have along the year. And so we can see that it's interesting to create different kind of events, wine and beer. In Italy, we saw it a lot, but we can grow in different kind of events with different kind of topics. This year, we had in Italy, World 50 Best Restaurant, the most important food event in the world that we hosted last month, and it was a great occasion to show the richness of our country. When we analyze the tourists, we try to divide in psycho-culinary profiles, and so we can see the seekers, 42%, they travel to seek new experiences, and so they want culinary proposals, visit to production sites, and so on. At second place, we have social revealers, 23%. They approach food and wine with a particular lightness, but they are not only young people. Less than half are under 35. So the people want to live gastronomy, to meet the other people, to enjoy. Then we have cultural connoisseurs, 90%. Quite all the tourists want to have information about cultural link to food, but these kind of people love to live these 360, and so you can see which kind of information do they like. And soulful wanderers, gastronomic and wine journeys, a chance to improve one's psychophysical well-being, and you can see here the details. In my research, if you like, you can find more information about this kind of segmentation. At the end, we have indulgent explorers, 12%, the gastronomic and wine experience to indulge in luxury. And so it's an important segment because they have the possibility to spend a lot of money. And so it's a niche gastronomic and wine, and don't want to find specific luxury experiences. And here you can see an example of AI promotion that created for this kind of people. It can be. So, or here another example of a New York Fashion Week. They made a dress featuring Cabernet Sauvignon. Another focus point is the rediscovered landscape. So the landscape, as we saw, is the most important theme for all the European. And then it's very important to work to preserve it. What we see in Italy, but around the world too, is that the people go from the countryside to the main important cities, and so less people live in rural areas, and so we'll have in the future a problem with the landscape, because the people from the farmers are who take care of the landscape. And so we have to do a lot of action and to preserve our landscape and to avoid the people that has to leave rural areas. And so it's a very important something that we have to act, and surely tourism is one of these. So here we can see some example of activities that are done in vineyard. Here is a labyrinth. We have a good example of activities of this kind. The restaurants in the hotel, in the past, gastronomy was something that it was a cost for the hotel. Now, instead, is a great source of interest from the tourists. In fact, now the restaurants are ambassadors for the territory. And as we can see, in Italy, we have an important decrease in trade activities. Instead, we have an important increase in food and service activities. And people love to, Italians, sorry, this is in Italian, love to experience local restaurants. Food track, we can see an increasing interest worldwide. And we have small people that can go into gourmet restaurant, and so it's 14%. So it's interesting to see that a lot of people will love to have a themed accommodation hotel. So in hotels where you can live the experiences of food and wine of 300 degrees. I'm going to the end of a presentation. Which kind of source of information the gastronomic tourism use? You can see some data from Italy, and surely at first place we have a recommendation from family and friends, and surely we can see a different attention in the source of information in the different ages. So from the 18 to 24, we can see Instagram 70%, Facebook only 16%, and but we can see all different situations going up with the ages, and surely the theme of AI is changing deeply this situation, and so we can see all different data in this year. We already saw it. And so we can measure it in 2 or 3 years, so everything will change. Surely TikTok is a great source of information and Instagram for the younger people. And so we have an increasing importance of the influencer regarding creating trends on food and wine, and regarding creating trends regarding the places that you have to visit. This is something that started here and becoming viral in Italy too, to create and freeze these Haribo gummy with a Sprite and put into the fridge. And we saw a really increasing attention to set jetting. So Netflix is inspiring for Netflix, or in general, I say Netflix because this is something from Netflix, it's White Lotus, and we see, for example, I analyze which are the most desired wine destination in the world, and I saw an incredible presence of Etna, that is in Sicily, that in 2 years from nothing became one of the most important desire in destination in Germany, UK, and US for White Lotus. And so it's, we have a deep importance of this. This is another TikTok for Italy, an unusual Korean dessert that went viral. And so AI, I put here some examples, but we can have a lot of that can surely change all of the situation, and all the customer journey will change, and all the way to search information regarding the journey. And so here are the perspective of the Italians. They think to have positive approach, but they think that there will be a lot of negative aspects relating to AI. But I can show you here, for example, an ADV that was created in France with AI regarding the world of champagne. But here you can see what you can do with a menu where you can create a virtual reality in a very easy way with AI, and all the people can see what will happen and what they will find on the table. And here instead you can have all new way to analyze the review of your restaurant because you can see minute by minute if the people will be are happy about the service and the food, and you can see if they are not. And so it's not necessary to analyze anymore social media, but you can see what you have to do to improve your service. And here instead is an example of machine in agriculture. With AI, it's possible to collect apples. And so these are some of the great examples that you can find of application of AI in this world. And so these are the main trends of 2025. I'm very happy to share this with you and to find what is happening in Japan. And so I ask to our colleague to give us really an overview regarding what is happening here. Thank you so much.
Your theoretical introduction. This will be followed by a presentation by Paolo Vizzari, who should be on Zoom at the moment. Okay, he's a journalist and food critic, although he currently defines himself as a gastronomic storyteller, focusing on the human stories behind food rather than conventional tasting critique. ガリバルディ先生による理論的な導入に続いて、パウロ・ビツァリ氏によるビデオをご覧いただきます。ビツァリ氏はジョーナリストであり、食の評論家として知られていますが、近年ではガストロノミーストーリーテーラーとして人と食にまつわる物語性に重きを置いた活動を展開されています。どうぞご覧ください。Whenever you like, you can start.
Thank you so much, and hi everybody. Good morning from Italy, good afternoon there in Osaka. And it's a pleasure for me to be here. As you said, I used to be a food critic, but then I changed my job, actually for a reason regarding what we are talking about today. Because I changed my job and I stopped being a food critic, becoming something different, when I realized the real power that food and restaurants could bring out in our days, compared to the more service and down-to-earth effect they used to have back in the days. So when we talk about rural tourism and when we talk about gastronomy, we don't know, many times we don't think about it, that we are actually talking about the same thing. And why am I saying this? So first of all, when we, starting from Roberta's presentation, the numbers and the surveys we have seen a few minutes ago, we could see that actually restaurants have a leading role in the purpose of bringing tourists and specific visitors to certain areas when we talk about food in particular. But this thing of the food tourism destinations and the the restaurants that could actually make people travel are the first example of food tourism in general we have had. Actually, the product tourism, the tourism that follows a specific product in a specific season going to a certain area, came way later. The first form of tourism driven by food was connected to restaurants and was connected to a tool that we still use and appreciate nowadays, which is the Michelin Guide. So the food tourism, as we still consider it and we still talk about it, was born a bit more than 1 century ago in France when two brothers had to sell a lot of tires because they opened a tire company and they wanted people to buy their tires with their new cars and they wanted them to consume those tires in order to buy more of them. And that's when they create these basically this advice list of restaurants and hotels that you should really visit. And when they trace down the three different steps, it's after the First World War when tourism is starting again, they decide to put these stars, the star system. And many times we consider stars as staples, but we don't stop thinking about what do they mean and where do they come from. So basically, what Michelin tells us already more than 1 century ago was that 1 star means that that restaurant is worth a stop. So if you are in that town and you have to go for lunch, you'd better go to that place. 2 stars, it means that that restaurant is worth a detour. So we are in Milan, but we could consider driving toward the countryside just to visit a restaurant. But what we are talking about today, and my main focus for our moments together, is the legenda for the 3 stars restaurant, which Michelin tells us it's worth the trip. It's a super, super huge responsibility. You're telling me that that restaurant is so good that I should take my car and drive to another region, maybe to another part of the country, just to visit it and eat there. This is a start of something because from that very day, back in the last century, we had restaurants that were able to establish themselves as final destinations, our goals, targets, and they started making people travel just to eat at their tables. And with that phenom, we start having the chefs, the star chefs, and the food system starts to grow. But for 20, 30, 40 years, basically from the 80s until now, from the countryside, the food scene moved mainly toward the cities because tourism itself started focusing on specific areas and most of times on specific cities. So you had places like Paris or like Rome or Milan or Madrid or Barcelona with many, many openings of restaurants. But the main difference between a restaurant in the city and a restaurant in the countryside is that when you go to a restaurant in the city, you're visiting a service. You're going to somewhere just because you are around there and you need to eat, and you go to the best restaurant you can find in that city or the most comfortable one for your needs and so on. On the other side, when you go and visit a 3 stars restaurants in the countryside, there are good chances that you are traveling just for that. You're taking a train, maybe a flight, then driving your car for many, many kilometers just to get to that restaurant and eat there. And when we were seeing Roberta's presentation before, we saw that the gourmet experiences are the low base of what attract people to a certain area. But we never have to forget that these kind of restaurants, especially when they are connected to a countryside or to a specific region and a specific rural area, not only they can bring a lot of people, it's only 15% of the tourists that are brought around by food, but it can help you selecting the audience, which I think it's one of the most important themes and topics we can discuss when it comes to over-tourism, to spreading the flows of tourism, and not creating certain poles of food and destinations without having a good balance. Why am I saying that? Just because when you create a staple restaurant, let's go back to the last century again, when Paul Bocuse opened his restaurant, which would have been one of the most legendary, if not the most legendary restaurant ever, he opened it outside Lyon because he couldn't do the same big machine in a city with the cost of the rent, with the cost of the labor, and so on. So he needed to be in the countryside. And the same happened for people in Italy, for example, like the Santini family, who opened the most historical 3 Michelin stars restaurant in Italy, Dal Pescatore, in Canneto sull'Olio, a small town close to Mantova, but lost in the Italian countryside. That gave them the chance of focusing on the identity of the area, on more identitarian food, and it gave them the chance to work with people who were there just for them. Because there are not many chances you just end up in Canneto sull'Olio, you find yourself there, if not because you went there to get to Dal Pescatore. It's if not because you're visiting the Santini family. And that's why a lot of people from the area, even if they don't go to such restaurants, they start understanding the importance of those because it brings you not only a lot of people, but people with a higher level of culture, curiosity, and money possibilities. Because it's also about that. Like I work with the truffle fair, the Alba White Truffle Fair. And Lange and Alba are an area that experienced this thing many years ago. We can basically cut the history of Alba and Lange in before and after truffle and wines. Before it was a farmer's area, everybody was growing their land, somebody were harvesting, somebody else were just renting their lands, until white truffle, thanks to the operation of a visionary guy called Giacomo Morra, who understood that food is not only something we eat and we bite to give ourselves energy, but it's often like a bringer of culture and heritage. So, along with white truffle and along with the explosion of Barolo and Barbaresco, Alba started attracting more and more people, mainly during the truffle fair season from October to December. But as soon as a lot of tourists came just for the truffle and Barolo, they started demanding for a higher level of hotels, of restaurants. And so, even if in Alba we started having mainly trattorias and local easy food places, which we think are the main drivers, and somehow they are, at least in the part of drawing the imaginary of an area. But then, as soon as you have the top spender guests, the top spender tourists coming to your place, you have to provide them great restaurants, great hotels with a high profile and with the capacity of handling very demanding tourists. Because once you have the most important and influential people visiting your land, you cannot think that they will not be demanding. Okay, that kind of request is actually a part of growing for a rural countryside area if you want to improve the level of your tourism attraction and the way you actually welcome those people. You need to enhance the level of restaurants and hotels too. It cannot be only trattorias, as much as they cannot be only fine dining restaurants. It's the scissor of the two realities working together that really give you the secret recipe for spreading the tourism, for creating new destinations in order to find new heroes in lands that are maybe interesting but not open to the international market yet. And it's almost impossible to create a culinary heritage out of the blue. It happened in Copenhagen, for example, where 20 years ago you had zero food tourists, while nowadays you have it on the top food destinations list in the world. Copenhagen is always very high in those rankings. How? Just because Noma, a chef, a guy named René Redzepi, put it on the map with one restaurant. But then it spread toward the city and through the country. In Italy, in France, in Japan as well, we already have super strong cultural heritages. So it's impossible to create something new, just cutting and erasing all the history and the actual culture that we already go through. What we can do, though, is defending those kind of environments, going deeper into what we already have and offering some destinations in spots that are not as known as others. In Italy, we don't have many food destinations in terms of leading restaurants in tourism areas like Capri or Venice or Florence, because we kind of know that those areas, those cities, don't need them. They just need places which are not offensive to our culture in order to feed people. But once we move outside and we get to the countryside, we really need to create and help and enhance the creation of these food destinations. We really need unique restaurants because it's the only way to put on a map an area which was not already there. It's the only way to create a hero out of nothing and to create something out of the scratch. And on the other side, rural areas have stronger, 90% of times at least, I will not be that 100%, but like they often have stronger gastronomic identities, way stronger than the metropolis, because in the metropolis we used to have capitals along with the nobles and the kings and the presidents, and so we usually have melting pots. We have way more immigration. So if you go to Milan or Paris, you will never eat the most identitarian food of the country. You will always eat something which is super interesting, but it's processed through the melting pot and through the different contamination of different countries. While if you move to the countryside, you will have people even more binded to their land. And from that kind of food, it's way easier to spread the culture of an area and of a countryside. And I'm closing with one small story from the Italian countryside again. And it's related to one of our main icons, which is pizza. And it's related to the pizzaiolo, the pizza maker, that today is considered the most important,
Paolo?
most famous, and probably the best in the world. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, we have to ask you to conclude as fast as you can, otherwise we will be closed in the pavilion for the night.
No, I will just invite people to go and look for the story of Franco Pepe, a pizzaiolo in Caiazzo, a small town in Campania. And that town was dying, literally. It went from 4,000 citizens down to 2,000 because people were leaving the town. Then Franco Pepe brought there the best pizzeria in the world, and people started traveling to get there. And so many hotels opened, many B&Bs, even parking lots. And now Caiazzo grew back to 5,000 and more. So it's basically reborn as a phoenix, thanks to a pizza and thanks to the vision of a guy in the Italian countryside. Thank you for listening to me, and have a great time in Osaka.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Sorry, I asked the speakers to be very concise for the last part. Please try to stay within 12 minutes. Otherwise, we will not be able to finish. and we will be actually really closed within these walls for the rest of our life. Okay, the first afternoon panel is dedicated to the theme Rural Tourism as a Strategic Response to Over-Tourism Models for Sustainable Territorial Rebalancing. Opening this session is Professor Ishida Masayoshi, a prominent scholar in the field of gastronomy at the College of Gastronomy Management at Ritsumeikan University. His research focuses on international food culture, regional food policies in Italy, Italian gastronomy, with a particular interest in the slow food movement. The title of his presentation is Reconfiguring Terroir and Well-Being, a Culinary Dispersion Strategy from Over-Touristed Kyoto to Shiga. 午後最初のパネルはオーバーツーリズムへの戦略的対応としての農村観光のテーマに焦点を当てており、持続可能な地域バランスのためのモデルについて考えていきます。このセッションの冒頭を飾ってくださるのは立命館大学食マネジメント学部の研究者石田正義教授です。石田先生の研究は国際的な食文化イタリアにおける地域の食政策そしてイタリア料理文化全般に及び特にスローフード運動に強い関心を持って取り組まれておられます。本日のご講演のタイトルはテルワールとウェルビーイングの再構築オーバーツーリズムの京都から市街の料理的分散戦略となります。よろしくお願いいたします。
よろしくお願いします。Thank you very much for inviting me to this very significant academic event. I'm so happy to be here. I'm a little bit embarrassed among the very eloquent Italian people, so I'll be very brave. In 12 minutes, I can swear. So I'm Professor Masayoshi Ishida and the Dean of our new faculty of gastronomy, College of Gastronomy Management. And I am the first Japanese who has passed the exam of tourist guide of Florence and Fiesole. That was very, very difficult. So, and I'm also one of the founders of Slow Food Japan. So I will talk about our reality of tourism or over-tourism in my pessimo inglese. Today, I would like to talk about a new strategy for tourism, one that connects food, wellness, and local culture. Devo leggere comunque. And how we shift attention from over-touristed cities like Kyoto to beautiful nearby rural areas like Shiga. Shiga is very important because our campus of gastronomy is located in Shiga, so I have to promote also this region. The mascot of our faculty is Cane Procione in Italian, because I'm living in the region of Cane Procione. So I designed myself. Kyoto and Florence are both famous for their history, culture, and beauty. After COVID-19, tourism has recovered strongly in both cities. In fact, it is now even more than 2019, but this is causing serious problems. Too many tourists in the same places, this is what we call over-tourism. Why does over-tourism happen? First, low-cost airlines make it easier and cheaper to travel. Second, social media has a big influence. People visit places that look good on Instagram, for example, even if they don't know the history or meaning. For example, a convenience store, the piccolo supermercatino, with a nice view of Mount Fuji, or a bar or a restaurant where only foreigners go. These places become viral in Instagram, it's very famous. Also, many tourists only know a few foods like ramen, tempura, sushi, or kaiten yaki, like that, and so on. They don't explore local food culture. This lack of information leads to concentration in just a few areas. And this is a big problem, a lack of information, because we have certainly a lot of tourist guides in every area in Japan. So, but it is written usually in Japanese languages. So this language barrier is very important, is insuperabile, diciamo. Scusatemi, ogni tanto va bene fuori in qualche parola italiano, altrimenti non ce la faccio proprio. For example, if you want to go to Italy, you have a lot of very beautiful tourist guides like Guida Rossa of Touring Club d'Italia or Osteria d'Italia of Slow Food and so on. But we have also a lot of tourist guides very fat. But in Japanese, you can't read that. So the foreign tourists are disoriented, but it's not very informed, I think. Slide 4. The title of slide 4 is How Far Can a One-Day Tour Go? In Europe, many one-day tours go beyond the city, famous city. From Florence, for example, tourists can visit Pisa or Siena or San Gimignano, and so on. From Rome, they go to Tivoli or Assisi, and even from Paris, they can go to Mont Saint-Michel, which is 357 kilometers away. So we should ask, why not apply this idea to Japan as well? Rural tourism in Shiga Prefecture, max 70 kilometers from the station of Kyoto. Let me introduce Shiga Prefecture. It is just next to Kyoto and only about 70 kilometers away. Perfect for a one-day trip. Shiga offers a completely different experience, less crowded, rich in history, nature, and local food. History and culture. Shiga was once the capital of Japan in the 7th century under Emperor Tenji. Mount Hiei, located in Shiga, is home to Enryakuji Temple, the head temple of the Tendai School of Buddhism. This temple is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and played an important role in Japanese history. The heart of Shiga is Lake Biwa, the largest freshwater lake in Japan. It provides water, supports many kinds of fish and birds, and has been important for transport and trade for centuries. Surrounded by mountains, Shiga is a place of beauty and balance between land and water. Shiga's food culture is deeply connected to its nature and religion. For example, funazushi. No, it's not funazushi. No. It's a special fermented sushi made from freshwater carp. It is the origin of sushi in Japan. You can also find dishes with ayu and biwa trout. Shiga is also famous for omi beef, one of the top quality Wagyu brand in Japan, as well as good rice and green tea. The region values fermentation and natural flavors. At Mount Hiei, you can experience Shojin Ryori. This is gastronomy for Zen people, the monks, the traditional Buddhist vegetarian cuisine, anti-vegan cuisine. It is simple but deeply spiritual, using seasonal vegetables and tofu. It reflects a Buddhist respect for all life and the idea of eating in harmony with nature. Here are some local dishes you can enjoy in Shiga. Tsuruki soba, a handmade soba noodle with deep flavor, which has more than 300 years of one family. And Tokuyama Zushi is very famous, a high-ended restaurant with fishes from the lake. And Funazushi, the famous fermented cup sushi. These foods tell the story of the land and the people who live there. Shiga is also known as a place where people live long, healthy lives. This is because of the clean environment, traditional lifestyle, and healthy food culture. So, a food tour in Shiga is not only delicious, it's also good for your well-being. If you take a one-day tour from Kyoto to Shiga, you can escape the busy crowds of Kyoto, or stay in beautiful, calm places for same place, eat authentic local food. Enjoy nature and feel refreshed, and this is good not only for tourists, but also for local communities and for the environment. Procione. Final message. Thank you very much for your attention. Let's rethink the future of tourism, not just through famous landmarks or social media trends, but through the daily life and food culture of local places. Let's start from our own tables and move forward together toward more sustainable and enjoyable travel. Thank you very much.
Torna dopo, la chiamo dopo per Following Professor Ishida, that I would like to thank for being very, very on time. We will hear from two key figures in the Terra Nostra Association for Agritourism, the Environment and Territory, who will join us via Zoom. Dominga Cottarella, the president of the association and CEO of a leading company in the world of wine, and Francesco Fratto, an economist and senior consultant specialized in agritourism and multifunctional farming. 石田先生のご発表に続き、テッラノストラ協会農業観光、環境地域振興のための協会からお二人の重要な登壇者に Zoom を通じてご参加いただきます。まずは同協会の会長でありワイン業界を代表する企業の CEO でもあるドミンガ・コタレラ氏、そしてアグリツーリズム及び、多機能型農業に精通したエコノミストでありシニアコンサルタントのフランチェスコ・フラット氏です。どうぞご覧くださいませ。
Good morning, first of all, good afternoon in your country. I'd like to thank you for the invitation to this important meeting. And yes, as you said, I was born and raised in a wine family, in a family where wine has always been the main protagonist. And 2 years ago, I met a new family called Diretti family. Called Diretti, for those who don't know, this organization is an agriculture organization, the main agriculture organization in Italy, with more than 1,600,000 members, and have the opportunity to be in the board of directors. I'm a member of the board of director in Coldiretti, and I'm the president of Terra Nostra and Campagna Amica. I'd like to share with you, before entering, about the topic of this meeting, and after very important speeches of our friends, I'd like to share with you the moment we are living in terms of, worldwide for agriculture. Agriculture, I'd like to say, that is going through one of the most difficult moments we can ever remember. We have a lot of threats, we have a lot of challenges, priority and urgent challenges that we can, the only instrument, the only way we can manage these challenges is to have a co-responsible approach, I should say. So to do together, to understand the important connection between agriculture and tourism, agriculture and human health, because we talk about food. And as Paolo Vizzeri told us, food is not only nourishment. Food has always been at the center of human society, but food is something more. Food is a universal language. Food is the bridge between present and past, but even the vision of the future. Food is the connection between young people and the old generation. So I'd like to say that we have to be aware. We have the consequences of climate changes. If I think about wine world, today we cultivate vines in places so far compared to what my grandfather did 50 years ago. So climate changes, the influence of the world. Unfortunately, we have a lot of wars all over the world, not only what we know, the best known, but the most famous, unfortunately, but we have the consequences of the theaters of wars we are living, consequences that underscore the interconnection, the deep interconnection between food system, geopolitics, and of course, general prosperity. And last but not least, we have to be aware that 80% of world food trade, 80% of world food trade is managed by the large entities. When I say large entities, I want to say, the cartels, the monopoly of food, and unfortunately, they consider food like a commodity. So we don't think that the future is I should say, the technological approach. So people think that the solution is lab-made food, ultra-processed food, but we think that the future, the turning point lies in local food systems that are resilient, competitive, sustainable, and productive, and to create alliance with, I should say, with local farmers, with family farmers, and with a vision, a clear vision, I should say, sustainable vision, where food is in the center, where agriculture, food system, and food sovereignty are in the center. So in this perspective, we know, and maybe it's easier for us to understand, the connection between agriculture and tourism, agriculture and human health, because we talk about the first ingredient, food. In our country, we talk about Italy. Italy is a special, I should say, a special country where we have maybe the largest number of food products with a specific designation of origin. If we talk about wines, we have more than 500, a precise number, 526 different wines with the origin declared. If we talk about food, we have more than 300. So it's a primacy. Italy is a primacy in terms of value that comes from food and wine with a specific origin. And we have to know that 93% of this value comes from the inner areas, rural areas. So we can understand how agriculture is the main protagonist, how farmers are the real creator, the real guardians of that beauty, not only from economic engine, not only from economical value, but even for the great beauty that tells to the world the story of our country. And we have to know that the first reason why a tourist comes to Italy, before the amazing cities we have, Rome, Naples, Florence, and the beauty of in terms of culture, architecture, the first reason why a tourist comes to Italy is for Italian food and Italian wines. So we have to be aware of this opportunity, of this richness. And with our organization, with the Nostra and Campagna Amica Foundation, where I have the opportunity, the chance to be the president, we want to develop this connection and to let people understand the importance of inner area, of rural area, not only for production, but even for, meeting people, training, entering the soul of this particular, area, territories, the uniqueness of these territories. If we think about, the possibility to listen to single producers, single farmers, just to know the story, just to know, the amazing story behind a wine bottle, behind, a cheese, behind, a specific bread, behind a specific olive oil. So every opportunity, every meeting can be an opportunity in terms of experience, in terms of training, in terms of listening, in terms of belonging. And so we have to be aware. We have to be aware, even starting from us. And our goal as Terra Nostra and Campagna Amica is just to let people understand and let people know what we are doing. We are more than 20,000 multifunctional farms. Just to let you know, the multifunctional agriculture in Italy is a very important part of Italian agriculture. Italy has the primacy in Europe in terms of value that comes from this specific agriculture. We talk about more than 15 million of euro. That means more or less 20% of our economic agriculture value. So we have to start from these numbers just to say, okay, we have a great opportunity. We have a great opportunity to tell the story of these farms, to tell the story of our local farmers, the importance of eating local. Eating local means eating tastier. Eating local means eating healthier. Eating local means, invest in our community. Eating local means to take care about the environment. And so in Terra Nostra and Campagna Amica, we have 20,000 multifunctional farms. We have selling directly. We have 1,200 farmers markets where we can meet local producers, where we can know the origins. Today, it's very important now more than ever to know the importance, the origin, where a single ingredient comes from. And then, last but not least, the importance of our 6,000 agritourism establishments where people can live specific experiences. But an important topic I'd like to underscore is that the rural experiences are not in contrast with the urban ones. Because we have to talk about a unique experience, of course, maintaining the specific identity, but working together just to let people, Italian tourists, but even foreign tourists, to understand the big beauty, the great beauty that follow our country. Italy is a wonderful country, it's an amazing country. What we have to do now compared to the past, we have to talk about unique experience, different moments of a unique experience, thanks to our farmers, thanks to our farms, thanks to people who every day works to create a territorial tourist culture, because we talk about culture. When we talk about food, we talk about culture. So we have to know, we have to study, we have to understand how we can work together, how we can do an amazing project that can make the difference and that can leave a real sign. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dominga. Now I give the floor to Francesco Fratto, but I have to tell him that we have only 5 minutes left for your intervention, so I ask you to be as short as you can.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. Thank you, Roberta. Thank you, Dominga. I share very speedy my presentation. Perfect. Okay. And in the wake of the speech of Dominga, we try to represent the Italian model of agritourism, of which Terra Nostra and Campagna Amica are the protagonists. Terra Nostra, I remember, was born in 1973, when the first time in Italy, in Italian legislation, is brought to the words agriturismo. The network of Campagna Amica Terra Nostra is the biggest, the largest in Europe for number of market with direct sale, for agritourism, and also for educational and social farming experiences. So from diversification and multifunctional agriculture, we go in the tourism direction, no? Since 17, more or less, the tourism has begun to take an agricultural connotation and rural connotation. We live after the Second World War some dystopia, no? Let me say the dystopia or some paradox. For example, we lost biodiversity, we lost number of farms, we lost. We have a rural depopulation problem and also some problem with quality of food and misinformation about food. So the agriculture changed and changed the paradigm, not only production oriented, but diversification oriented, and so multifunctionality. To break, substantially to break the phenomena and to curb the phenomena of concentration, the tourist in time and space, but not only tourists, is the answer also a different model of agriculture. The framework in Italy have favored the born and development, of course, of rural tourism and agritourism. Is a path start in 1973 with a national law arrived in Italy in 1985, the first law about specific law about agritourism, and then the very important moment with the legislative decree of 2001, the law about multifunctionality. With this law, the agricultural system enter in the tourist system and not only the tourist system, but have the goal to protect landscape, environment, food quality, and also territory. The form that we can represent, the simple form that we can represent the evolution of agritourism and rural tourism in Italy, and at the same time of the agriculture, the multifunctional agricultural, put and with the input, with a good system of legislation, but not only, also with the rural development program, we see to spread in our countryside new services, new activities for differentiation, of course, the activities, but not only the risk and the income in the farm, with the support of Italian Ministry of Agriculture, with the support of Italian Association. And we see along the year the diversification strategy on the farm for competitiveness and sustainability approach to the market in order to environment, economic, of course, and social and cultural sustainability. And we see crop diversification, young entry, very important because we have an agriculture that need for young and women. And in this way, the agritourism is very important input. Diversification also of revenue and activities, and then repositioning and differentiation. In the meantime, with the digital revolution, we have to interact with some new player, like the big player of tourism in the world that we all of us know. Google Maps, Google TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Airbnb, etc., and etc. The result of this model produce more than 15 billion euros, as Dominga told before. But the very interesting data is that the 20% of Italian GDP, agricultural GDP, is product of by 10% of the farms, 65,000 farms in Italy with multifunctional activity, of which also agritourism, direct sale, produce 20% of Italian value in agriculture. This is very important for multiplier effect. Agritourism with 2 billions and direct sale with 6 billions and renewable energy almost 3 billions euros. The ecosystem is very, very interesting. In Italy, it's very different because it's different for formula, for combination. We see the activity of hospitality with recreational, sportive, and cultural activities proposed by 11,000 farm, 9,000 farm offer hospitality with catering. Catering is very important. By law, the product is on the farm or on the territory. And this is very important for microeconomy in the rural area. And also the activity of restaurant catering with recreational, sportive, and cultural activity proposed by 6,000 farms. Very interesting is the increasing of agritourism offer plus 43% in the last 15 years, with an average of 3.2% in average per year in the last 20 years. For this reason, make the Italy the first country in Europe for value about multifunctional activities in agriculture. We can say that agritourism is one of the most important investment in rural building in Italy. We have a lot of kind of rural build, different from Apulia to the south, from Tuscany to the north in Trentino Alto Adige. Very, very important is the presence. 31% of 26,000 farms in Italy is located in mountain. It's very important function to presidium and protection of the territory and revitalization also of the territory. Another important goal about environment sustainability is the presence of 26% of the farm with organic certification. 30% of hectares of total surface agricultural area of agritourism in Italy is organic certificate, more than 200,000 hectares. So it's very important for environment point of view. Also, for the spread of the agritourism, 64% of Italian municipality host at least one farms, and very important, one in two agritourism is located in municipality with less than 5,000 inhabitants. And at this moment, created in every year, more or less 16, 17 millions of nights with 4.5 millions of tourists, with an average period of stay of 4 days. And complessivamente, in total, in the last 15 years, the agriturismo guaranteed to the Italian countryside an overall turnover of almost 16 billions of euros. At least and at last, the creation of new jobs. So the social sustainability of tourism. Very important data is the presence of the women in the agritourism farm to run. 33%, more or less 9,000 farms are run by women, and the average of the owner in agriculture is 60 years old, in agritourism is 48. So it's very important for the new generation of agriculture, for the new paradigm that we see the rural area not only production place, but place for sustainable and responsive place to spend the holiday. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I'm very speed. I hope clear, and thank you.
Thank you, Francesco. Closing this session is my colleague Federica Burini, who teaches geography in the same department as myself at the University of Bergamo. Her main research interests include participatory processes and collaborative mapping in both rural and urban contexts, as well as territorial regeneration from a sustainability perspective. このセッションの最後を飾ってくださるのは、私と同じベルガモ大学外国語学部文学文化学科で、地理学を教える同僚、フェデリカ・ブリニ先生です。先生の主な研究関心は、農村部および都市部における参加型プロセスや共同型マッピング、さらに持続可能性のサスペンス観点からの地域再生にあります。本日の講演タイトルは、地域振興のためのクリエイティブかつアクセシブルな観光です。Please welcome Federica. それではフェデリカ先生、よろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you for all for being so patient. It's my turn now to close this session, trying to talk about prevention, especially for bringing sustainable and responsible tourism in our rural areas. As Professor Garibaldi said at the very beginning of this morning, she said we should bring some tourism flows in the rural areas. And now it's my turn to say, okay, how can we bring these international flows to our rural areas? So let me do an overview about what I mean is the vision that we should follow to bring international and national flows for the development of rural areas, trying to focus three main aspects. First of all, community-based rural tourism. We cannot do otherwise. It's the just solution. Be community-based, otherwise we cannot be sustainable. Second, to start creative and accessible forms of tourism, drivers for change, to reveal a power that our rural areas have been having since the beginning of our age, because everything started in the rural areas who built the urban areas. And third, our responsibility as universities. So today it's a moment organized by the University of Bergamo in Japan, and it's amazing to talk about our mountain territories also in Italy and all over the world and in Japan. So I think this is the responsibility of universities, to bring rurality into the topic, also in our Expo 2025. So first of all, the vision, rural areas beyond the development gap. We probably have heard about rural areas as internal peripheral, so this abuse of using a negative image of rural areas. Time is over. Rural areas are very strong since the beginning of our time, since the history of our territories. And what are the main attractors of these rural areas? First of all, low population density. Secondly, natural resources. So the heritage is both natural and cultural heritage. And every time we go in our rural areas, what we feel, what we bring back to urban is, oh, wow, how was welcomed by the local community, how very close to their heritage they are. So these are the main attractors that bring people to love being and staying in rural areas. And they have many, many opportunities in the future, like potential for sustainable practices, agri-tech innovations, renewable energy, ecotourism, remote work, smart trekking, smart working in rural areas is something which is a new age of tourism. Government and NGO support with many financial aids for rural areas and diversification of income sources. So all these are main opportunities which have been put into critical issues for many reasons, and especially for global challenges that our world is facing, which in particular in these rural areas, when they happen, they are stronger than what happens because we have less system, less services to face what happens. So environmental global challenges, infrastructure deficits, access to healthcare, disparities in economic and social educational challenges, and collaboration and community engagement. So which kind of tourism could cover the gap? This is our question today. I think the answer is only one, is community-based rural tourism. We started talking about this many years ago. So you can follow a very wide literature on community-based cultural tourism, community-based rural tourism, and we started thinking about this, and we don't have to leave it out. We have to follow it more and more. Community-based tourism is based on the opportunity to fill this gap between urban and rural, basically anchored to local communities in their social structure, in the way of life, in the community organization, in the local knowledge. We should be able to revive all these issues, which are so profound and so intertwined in the natural heritage, which has produced agro, silvopastoral, fishing, harvesting, hunting activities that can be very, very useful for food, gastronomy experiences, as we saw in the previous session. So what we need is to be inspired by the Faro Convention, talking about heritage. What is heritage? Heritage is a dynamic evolution of our identities, which are not monolithic and fixed. They are continuously growing thanks to these interactions, and today is a form of increasing our cultural heritage in this encounter. So cultural heritage and community-based rural tourism can bring us to having a holistic approach, community involvement, cultural heritage as a dynamic resource, and within this interdependence of natural and cultural heritage. Now, let's have a focus on what is happening in Europe when we talk about rural areas. I think they are a resource for the future. If we analyze data coming from Eurostat, when we look at where do people live in Europe, we see that an increasingly number of people living in urban areas or suburban areas, and only a small part, the green lines, are in rural areas. And so it's not a question, a problem only of Italy, of France, of Spain, of every one of the countries of the European Union. And so maybe the issue is not to bring back cities in the rural, but to bring the rural as rural, but to strengthen them, not to lose what they have in terms of social, cultural capital, and to start driving new forms of lives, new regeneration forms. And creativity is an inspirational topic here, because creativity can be brought to tourism from people, creative products, creative processes, creative press. So the social-cultural context can be a part of creativity. And we should move from creativity in tourism, so inventing something new, to creative tourism. So a tourism based on the creative people, products, and everything that I find in a rural area. So starting from the creativity that was part of the identity of that place, and not to bring something creative there without any connection with the local space. So what is the relationship between creative industries and accessibility? I think they can be driver of development. First of all, local crafts, but also local food products, as I said, local material and immaterial heritage. If they are not connected to a good accessibility, then we have a problem. Which kind of accessibility? Physical, first of all. If I cannot reach these rural areas, we have a problem. And we will see in a while, this is one of the problems, for example, that we have in northern Italy, to bring more connection, physical accessibility to our mountains. The second is economic. The third is social and cultural. My colleague before me said, if I don't translate what is a Japanese recipe or a Japanese historical way to produce this food, my international tourists will understand anything about this, and they will only think about something. And then there is a big potential of technological issues, getting accessibility of our heritage, and the last one is governance. Without a good governance, we cannot bring accessibility of our cultural heritage in our lands. So the role of university, and then I will do an example of the University of Bergamo. The role of the university in territorial ecosystems is very, very important. We have a responsibility in front of our communities. Every time we do our research, we should give them back something. Otherwise, it's not worth going. What we think as a university, we have a strategy that our Vice Chancellor told you at the beginning, which is that the university can bring regional innovation models to the territories at different scales. And we think that universities should always work with private and public institutions in close connections with local communities, in close connections to heritage and landscapes. Otherwise, this connectivity doesn't produce any good and responsible answer. In the northern part of Italy, where we are inserted, you can see the position of Bergamo, our city, in the middle of the northern part of Italy. As you can see, we are very well connected internationally. We have a wonderful international airport, many airports in the northern part of Italy, railways, motorways, highways, so we are very, very connected in Europe. But if you look at the very light blue areas, these are the rural areas of the northern part of Italy, you will see what happens there. They are not connected, there are no railways, especially when we think about the northern part of our mountains, there are some parts which are really, really not connected at all. And this means that for local communities, in order to reach a hospital or to reach an urban site with some services is a problem. So our tourism, if it's responsible, it should be help these communities to reach the hospital and to reach the places for services, not to bring over tourism, of course. So we should think about a tourism, a creative tourism, able to answer to fundamental needs of our local communities. And so for this reason, we need the enlarged triple helix model to promote cultural heritage in our cities. And Bergamo, for us, is a network of many heritage and landscapes between urban and rural. And the fact that they have been recognized as UNESCO sites for creativity, for gastronomy, but also for the heritage of the building heritage that we have, like the fortress network of fortresses of the Venetian Republic, but also the presence of another workers' village, talking about another identity of our region, which is the industrial identity. So everything, agro-silvopastoral, the urbanity, and the industrial production have been recognized as UNESCO sites, it's a symbol for us to engage in the future and to apply the model. So here you see some of examples of connections with public institutions, the region, the province, the municipality of Bergamo, the Chamber of Commerce, and destination management organization, Visit Bergamo, Visit Lake Iseo, and everything, with which we are working, together with mountain communities, local organization, etc., etc. So we think that we cannot do ourselves the job. We have to do it in a systemic way. So let me show you an example. This is a project called Orobio Slow Experience. It's a project which tries to bring this idea, to bring the flows to the mountains, to the rural areas, done in this triple helix enlarged system. So the university, with the province, with Visit Bergamo, with Orobia Style, with another association of the Lake Iseo, Bossico Borgo Turistico Diffuso, all together we try to redefine connections in the mountains. So connecting the city to the different valleys between, from the west to the east, from the east to the west, from the lake to the valleys, etc., etc. So why we decided to do that? Because we thought that these valleys couldn't do it alone, because they are very small village with very small entities. They cannot do it. The governance is so difficult to be done. So in this case, the institutions, the public institutions, should move a program to bring them together at the same table. It was done during Bergamo Brescia Capital of Culture, so it was an occasion for us to create this new model, where we find out some pivot places in our valleys. Why? Because they were strong enough to acquire new tourism, because they had accommodation facilities, they were accessible, they had an organization of tourism there, so for us they were pivot. But then we started interacting with little nodes, not having all these capacities, to do an empowerment. So every reality, like a farm, an agritourism, or a certain association in the territory, was for us a pilot. And we brought this culture of a new responsible tourism in their area. And they were working all together from the east to the west in our region. And so all together, they made a very big network by promoting different forms of experiences. So we did many meetings in presence and online. We designed together experiential activities together with the farmers, with the producer, with the craftsmen, etc., etc. And then we asked Visit Bergamo to promote, because we needed also the part which is in front of the tourist, to promote directly on the website. And so we brought our students from the university in the different contexts. We created videos and storytelling of the different activities, and we could be able to organize this project that today is Orobia Slow Experience. It's a page in the Visit Bergamo area where tourists can buy some activities, experiences, emotional activities, promoted together with the local communities in rural areas. So this is an idea of how to make these people that usually are not at the center, at the core of the organization of a tourism proposal, the center. So how to empower them to be the protagonist of a new form of responsible tourism. So what we can say, just to conclude, is that there are no strategies for all of the places of the world, but probably we should identify creative nodes inside our territory, because they have natural cultural heritage, landscapes, creative industries, accommodation services, and they are accessible. And then we should start from there to start empowering little by little the surrounding areas, promoting other forms of accessibility. Sometimes the linguistic and the cultural accessibility is more important than other ones, because if there is no communication, we cannot have a responsible tourism. And then we should promote new tourism governance and start pilot projects to enhance a new way to promote, hopefully, responsible and sustainable forms of tourism in rural areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Federica. Okay, we are almost there. The final two panels of the day are devoted to case studies on rural and food and wine tourism, focusing on our two areas of interest, Italy and Japan. The upcoming panel will focus on the Italian context, and the first case study we will explore is that titled A Cultural and Territorial Model Connecting Cheese, Tourism and Local Development. The speaker is Alberto Gottardi, a communication expert and promoter of the Forme project, launched in Bergamo in 2015. Forme has turned cheese into a cultural tool and a driver of territorial development. He will be joined online by Roberto Amadeo, Provincial Councillor of Bergamo, who will deliver a little comment at the end. はい、本日の最後の2つのパネルになります。農村観光及び食ワインツーリズムに関する事例紹介が行われます。終点を当てる2つの地域は私たちの研究の中心であるイタリアと日本です。これからのパネルではまずイタリアの状況を取り上げます。最初にご紹介するのは地図、観光、地域振興をつなぐ文化的、地域的モデルという発表になります。発表者はコミュニケーションの専門家であり、フォルメプロジェクトの推薦者であるアルベルト・ゴッタルディ氏です。フォルメは2015年にベルガモで始動し、チーズを文化的資源として地域振興の中心に据えることを目指してきました。今回はオンラインでのご参加いただくベルガモ県のロベルト・アマデオ県議会議員とともにご発表いたします。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you very much to Professor Pallone, Roberta Garibaldi, and the Bergamo University for this very important opportunity. I'm very proud to speak about this project. It's a paradigmatic project born 10 years ago in Bergamo during Expo Milano. Today, it's a return to an international exposition here in Osaka at the Italy Pavilion. The theme is what we know is art regenerates life. And that is not a coincidence, because the first edition of Forme, we starting with a event that in art exhibition where we show the cheese within the masterpiece in the same way. Very, very amazing. Okay. This is. Forme propone a revolutionary approach to territorial promotion. Bergamo holds a world record, is the province with the highest number of dairy PDOs in Europe, 9. We have 9 cheese, DOP cheese. But Forme never stopped at celebrating this. From the start, it aimed to build an open and inclusive network to benefit the entire Italian dairy sector. Our idea is winning together, preserving local identity and competing as one. This is very important for us. Forme balances local identity and uniqueness with a common vision in territory separately, because territory separately cannot be successful. Only through networking and shared visibility and opportunity can be created real value. This is for us the most important point, the central role of culture and storytelling. Promoting culture is another key objective of Forme. It must be shared, experienced, and told in ways everyone can understand. Forme created a narrative connecting cheese, identity, tourism, and business in a single cultural platform. The highlight is culture drives growth. Le radici, the roots, sorry for some word in Italian. The origins and the civilization of the Bergamini. This is very, very particular for us. The story has deep roots. This story has deep roots. It comes from the Bergamini Bergamini is a mountain herder who have crossed the valleys and the lowlands of Bergamo for centuries. UNESCO recognizes this tradition and intangible cultural heritage, the transhumance. The name is the transhumance. Bergamo at the heart of Italy dairy experience. Bergamo is central to Lombardy and Italy's dairy excellence. Lombardy produces over 50% of Italy's milk and has 14 PDOs cheeses. Italy has 54 dairy PDOs. Is the #1 in the world. I say Bergamo or Italy? Italy. Italy, okay. The Cheese Valleys, a unique heritage of UNESCO recognition. All is linked. The Cheese Valleys represent a living tradition, unique products, and fascinating mountain landscapes. Forme was the flagship project for Bergamo UNESCO Creative Candidacy. The Cheese Valleys is the birthplace of dairy identity of Bergamo. In Forme, we organize many signature initiatives. The major initiative include the World Cheese Award in 2019 with almost 4,000 cheeses and 215 international judges. They went in Bergamo. I will never forget the stunning moment of the standing ovation in Bergen in Norway when we officially announced Italy as the host for the following year's competition. It was incredible. It was an amazing moment, incredible, unforgettable. Other strategic activities are museum-style exhibition, markets, conferences, cheese labs, cheese ambassador program. After that, we launch B2 Cheese, the international B2B fair. B2 Cheese is Italy's only international B2B fair, specialized in dairy. The success of the first edition is due to the fact the Forme hosting the World Cheese Award simultaneously. Forme, World Cheese Award and B2Cheese in the same moment, in the same place. Was an incredible event to enlighten the attention on Bergamo and on our dairy heritage. B2Cheese is the perfect complement to Forme. Why? Because B2Cheese is perfect for, is born for create business opportunities. Forme is, the mission of Forme is awareness and public engagement. Both share the same goal, promoting the value and heritage of the Italian cheeses. We link this with the international dimension. Before Federica said, told us, UNESCO is a very great opportunity. Since 2019, Bergamo is a UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy. Creative City of Gastronomy. Today, Forme is a part of a global network. Bergamo is part of global network of 315 creative cities, 50 creative cities. Since 2020, it hosts the Creative City Summit, a great opportunity starting for cheeses for our territory. This is, okay. The first national cheese tourism report curated by Roberta Garibaldi. In the last year, in 2024, Roberta Garibaldi presented the first national cheese tourism report under the Forme program, a milestone for understanding the second leg of the future mountain cheese economy. This is very important. Tourism, because tourism is very important for mountain economy. A mountain economy depends from, in our region, in our territory, depend from dairy economy. The report of Roberta show that over 80% of tourists seek authentic food and mountain experiences. Cheese tourism will be more and more a strategic key for sustainable identity-based growth and development. Another project, tipicamente uniche. This depends by the network of creative cities. Tipicamente uniche, unique, typical unique, 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 typical. Tipicamente unique is a tourist project. It's a project created by the Trader Association of Alba, Bergamo, and Parma. Bergamo, Alba, and Parma are Italy's three UNESCO Creative City for Gastronomy. This project is create an integrated promotion of the three territories. A single itinerary blending food, art, landscapes, and culture in an authentic journey. But why Forme is a model of development? Why Forme is the model? Forme, it isn't a single event, it's a 360-degree promotion system because it brings together culture, products, typical product, tourism, and business, creating network and real opportunities for producers, territory, and institutions. It's local, it's national, and international. It's culture and business. It's networking and preservation of uniqueness. It's production and tourism. It's all together. This is the focal point. Nothing alone could have a success. This is our imagination, but also a future perspective. Is a dream, but is concrete dream. The future of Forme, but not only Forme, of the territory, of our territory, but I think that Forme is really a unique model, a unique system of promotion. Our dream is to be very ambitious, more ambitious, more ambitious. Forme could be a focal point for the entire Italian cheese sector, with a courageous and visionary project as an experiential experience and immersive cheese museum, a covered experiential market, and a cheese high school for new young professionals. This is our future project. Thanks for your attention. Forme is an evolving story made for people, places, and cheeses that through dairy culture and unique product continues to tell Italy's story to the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Now we have a little comment by Roberto Amadeo, who should be connected via Zoom presentation. I beg you to be breve, please. Prego. Can you hear us? Ci senti?
Hello, everybody. I can hear. Do you hear me?
Prego, prego.
Okay. So I would like first of to extend the greetings of the Mayor of Bergamo and the President of the Province of Bergamo to you, to Roberta Garibaldi, to everybody there. Thank you for your invitation. Now I speak about the Bergamo Creativity UNESCO for Cheese Valley, as Mr. Gottard told you before. Since 2019, Bergamo has been as a UNESCO Creative City for Gastronomy. This network, Creative City Network, connects more than 350 cities worldwide, including 14, of which we are proud to be a part. UNESCO Creative City Network was established in 24 to cooperation among cities to have identified creativity and as a strategic factor for sustainable urban development. It is divided into 7 areas, each corresponding to a cultural sector: music, literature, craft and folk, arts, design, media arts, and film, and also gastronomy. Bergamo is Creativity UNESCO City for Gastronomy. Creativity means bringing things together, connecting the piece of a puzzle of a mosaic, them being part of the world culture heritage means recognizing ourselves in a collective part, in a collective pact. When a community put such collective effort into elevating an object, a place of gesture, or a food from everyday life, it is so solemnly affirmed its vital importance. Together with other Italian cities, we are currently working on a new memorandum of understanding to coordinate activities among all creative cities, including the sharing of best practices. One such initiative could be a network of civic museums across municipalities, featuring exhibition on creativity cities and inviting citizens from other cities network to engage with them. But why does all it matter for the tourism of the future? Because one of the greatest tourism of tomorrow will be the way of life of the people who inhabit a place. Their ways of eating, working, and meeting others. It's also important to remember that mountain were once productive cities with their factories, means, and agriculture system, revitalizing a village, rediscovering that DNA, bringing more people to those areas, more trees of nature to our current cities. Is always the story of a journey of people and gods. The food heritage never aligned with the geographic or national borders. Thanks to the constant movement of people, products, an area of shared rural and commercial civilization has emerged. Why the most appropriate term to use is food cultures, to include similarities and difference, various geographic and environmental, historical and social contexts, ruptures and continuities, and abundance. Food-related festivals and rituals, cooking, feeding, social interaction and conviviality. The sacredness of food and the struggle to obtain it, frugality and moderation. Food is so a social, total fact. Europe and Italy, all the world, face to the major challenges, immigration and deportation. Our response must be a return to the land, to the revival of ancient agriculture practice, grains and seeds, the country as a granary, care for the landscape, ethical farming, deeper knowledge of supply chains, and the enhancement of the planet's diversity. These are the foundation of restanza, is an Italian word meaning to remain in a place, a form of rootness, the counter-demographic, spatial, productive, and cultural emptiness. Sometimes food is memory, nostalgia, and remembrance. But to feel nostalgia, let it not be only for our recent food tradition, but for the culinary memories of all parts of the world, and as we are doing here today. So, I just want to say to you, to everybody, thanks to everybody to invite me and the Common Bergamo for this discussion in Osaka, and I want to say hello, and I leave it now, the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you very much. Okay, next Case study is that of Associazione Nazionale Città del Vino, the National Association of Wine Cities. Presenting the association live from Italy is Angelo Radica. Do we have him? No, we don't have him. Niente vino, no wine for today, we are sorry. Oh, okay, no, we have wine. But we can just listen to the wine, not drink the wine today. Okay, we welcome Angelo Radica, president of the association. The association was founded in March 1986, and Città del Vino is a network of Italian municipalities with a wine growing vocation with the aim of wine promotion. はい、次にご紹介するのはイタリア全国ワインシティ協会アソシアzione nazionale città del vinoです。この協会についてご紹介くださるのは会長のアンジェロ・ラディカ氏でイタリアからオンラインでご登壇いただきます。この協会は1987年に設立されワイン文化を振興を目的としてブドウ栽培の伝統を持つイタリアの自治体によって構成されています。各地域の価値を高めることを目的とし、ワインの文化、歴史、伝統を守る町々をつなぐ理想的な観光ルートを提案しています。どうぞよろしくお願いします。Ok, può parlare a 10 minuti di tempo, per favore, perché siamo molto in ritardo.
Sì, only a moment with that I search my slide, my moment. It's okay. Good morning. Now, the association, you hear me? Excuse me?
We can hear you. Please go on.
Okay.
You have 8 minutes now.
Okay. I am the president of Italian Association of Wine Cities. That is a network of over 15 and 50 municipalities, provinces, parks, wine routes, and mountain communities that are united by a strong winemaking vocation. This is the focus of this association, and the characteristics of this lands is the presence of controlled designation of origin, that in Italian is DOC, and DOCG, controlled and guaranteed designation of origin. And the focus is to promoting high quality agri-food products, in particular wine, but also preserving a well-documented enological tradition. The cities of wine of the association represent an ideal tourist itinerary around the Italian historic village, art cities, coastal and mountain areas, each with a unique culinary and wine history to discover and enjoy. This is the Città del Vino, the Italian Association of Wine, is one of unique example of this association in the Europe, but I think also in the world. The Wine Cities Association promotes projects aimed to engaging the environmental, cultural, and agri-food resource of its member municipality. We collaborate with major public institutions, trade association, environmental and cultural organization to spread the culture of quality, respect for the environment and food well-being. The City of Wine, the Italian City of Wine participates also in the European projects for development of wine and food tourism. The city, our association also focus on communication, the promoting of the cultural assets and activities of their association territories. Through their bi-monthly magazine Terre del Vino is an important newspaper of the sector. The association publishes guides and books and informs the media and the general public through Terre del Vino, and organize events, in-depth seminars, training course, and international conference. One of the most important output product instrument of development of food and wine tourism is the Wine Tourism Observatory. We from 23 years published the Wine Tourism Observatory. There is an exclusive tool for industry professionals, including operators, public administrators, private companies, travel agency, and the media. Another important objective of our association of wine is to promote the sustainable local economic development. The introduction of technical innovation in administration and companies operating in the sector of wine tourism, cooperation at the European and international level, and the relationship between associations, producers, and bodies that work to protect the quality of products and environmental, landscape, historical, and artistic resource. And the last integrated tourism offering based on the quality of territory, local and traditional products and services. The fil rouge of this association is the quality. We promote in the quality of a territory, local and traditional. The Wine City Master Plan first development in 1999, and we worked in the balance between agronomic validity and landscape quality, engagement of urban and rural areas, use of renewable energy in the countryside, sustainability and accessibility, adaptation to climate change, and urban food planning. This is the second tools of our association, the Wine Cities Master Plan. The three tool is the protecting the wine landscape. Our association write a manifesto on the areas suitable for the installation of renewable energy plants. Città del Vino and Città dell'Olio support sustainable development and the energy transition, but have raised the alarm against speculation and green illegality by drafting a manifesto that asks to the Italian region to identify the areas suitable for the installation of renewable energy plants in a responsible manner. This is a very important focus in Italy. And at last, we work to support the tourism and in particular sustainable tourism. The boom of sustainable tourism $9 billion in value by 2031. Travelers are increasingly demanding and inclined towards responsible and sustainable travel experiences. The awareness of environmental and social issues, the value of the culture of territory, and the relationship with people has led 7 organizations: Italian Association of Food and Wine Tourism of Roberta Garibaldi, National Association of Wine Cities, the My Association, National Association of All Cities, our partner in several projects, Italian Federation on Wine Routes, Terra Nostra Coldiretti, and Itervitis and Umpli. This association collaborate in the creating of a first document that propose a national green holiday designed to support the communities of territory visited. The final objective of this project is very important, a pilot project for the application of the document on a large scale at the European level. This is how CARTES, Charters for the Sustainable Food and Wine Tourism, was born this year and increasing in the during 20 and 25. Thanks for the invitation and greetings to all participants.
Thank you, Angelo. Okay, the next presenter is our young colleague Dauro Zocchi, a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Bergamo. His work focuses on the dynamics of safeguarding and promoting food and gastronomic heritage, especially in rural and marginal contexts. Dauro is currently involved in a Crocus project, together with Valeria Benedetta Canizzaro, postdoctoral researcher at the University of Bergamo. And today he will present this project. そして、最後にベルガモ大学のポスドク研究員であるダウロ・ゾッキ氏にご登壇いただきます。ゾッキ氏は食文化及びガストロノミー資源の保全活用に関するダイナミックを農村部や周辺地域を中心に研究されています。これまでにそれじゃなくて現在はクロクスプロジェクト農村及び遠隔地域におけるクリエイティブ農村観光に参加しており、本日はその取り組みをご紹介いただきます。よろしくお願いします。
Okay, thank you so much, Christian. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here, for taking part of this interesting meeting and workshop. In my presentation, I will touch upon some of the key elements that have been discussed so far, I guess, because this project, which is an Horizon Europe project involving the university, is focused on 3 main elements that are tourism, rurality and rural areas, and heritage, and in particular, as we will see in a while, heritage related to food. And it also strictly connected to the approach that Professor Burini mentioned before, the way the University of Bergamo works with territory. In this case, we are not in the province of Bergamo, but we are nearby because we are in the province of Sondrio and in a neighboring country that is Switzerland. And in this case, the approach is strictly connected to the way of co-creating sustainable way of doing tourism that are based, first of all, on the needs and the characteristics of the territory and the people that live in the area where these tourism businesses are developed. And within the project that is called Crocus, we focus specifically on cheese tourism. So basically all those kind of activity that engage visitors with tangible and intangible resources that are connected to cheese and the related landscape that are connected to this traditional activity. And in this specific case, we focus on those cheese-related activities that are embedded in mountain areas. That is another, by the way, another topic that for our university is key in the research and other activity that we've developed. And we have started this research, I would say, before the very start of the Horizon project with the national survey conducted by Professor Garibaldi, that is, by the way, the principal investigator of this project, that show an increasing interest of tourists, so from the side of the demand, for all those activities that are connected to food tourism and in particular with cheese-related tourism, for different kind of activity, and in particular we can see an increase in interest for those activities that have a strong experiential element and that allow tourists to get in touch and touch with their hands with cheese-related activities. And another key point that we can see in this growing niche of tourism is, by the way, an interest for tourists in getting closer to these activities and to be involved in activities that allow them to know more about cheese and, broadly speaking, about the landscape within which cheese is embedded. And this could be, in principle, a potential for rural areas, since many, in particular in Italy, many of traditional dairy products are connected to rural and remote areas. And starting from this assumption, starting from this hypothesis, we, as University of Bergamo, be involved in a project, in an Horizon Europe project that tries to understand from different disciplinary angles and from different nations and territories how cultural and creative resources could be a driver to foster a sustainable development within rural and remote areas. And in our specific case, we are working, as I mentioned before, on food, and in particular on cheese-related tourism, by adopting a specific approach that is at the core of the project, that is the approach of working on tourism in rural and remote areas by adopting a cross-national perspective, or better say a cross-border perspective, that in our case involve two different nations that are Italy and Switzerland, and we are specifically working on two neighboring provinces that are on the Italian side in the Sondrio province, that is, by the way, as I mentioned before, close to the province of Bergamo, which is one of the, at least in the Alpine regions, one of the most important provinces when we talk about traditional dairy production. And by the way, those are just a few of the example of the traditional dairy products that are connected to this province. And within this area, we have also, in the last decades, we have experienced an increase in tourism-related activities that are connected to food, gastronomy, and specifically to cheese and dairy production. On the other side of the border, we are working in Switzerland, in particular in the canton of Grisons, that is in the southern part of the Swiss nation. And also in this case, we are focusing our research on the reproduction. Also in this region, we have a long-lasting tradition connected to this specific food product. And also in this territory, we have experienced an increase in both top-down and bottom-up activities that try to link tourism to the local food resources, such as cheese, but also on other kind of products. Within these two contests, these two territorial contests, we have we have started focusing our research on specific case studies that are case studies connected to the province of Sondrio, some specific municipality in the province of Sondrio, where we are working with different stakeholders, both stakeholders connected to the tourism sector and stakeholders connected to the food and specifically dairy sector. And the same applies to the canton of Grison, where we are working specifically in a valley called Poschievo Valley, again working together and try to connect together with food-related producer, but also actors and stakeholders in the tourism sector. And those are the main parts that we have been working with so far. And we are trying to compare two case studies that, besides sharing some commonalities in terms of the geography within which this activity takes place, they are very different in terms of development and articulation of these realities, where in the province of Sondrio, we are mostly working with the consortium that gather together traditional producers that are connected to PDO cheeses, in particular with Bitto and Valtellina Casera. There are different stakeholders that they have already I would say, steadily structured offer concerning tourism, while in the Swiss part, we are working with specifically with a group of stakeholders, with a cooperative that is in a phase of transition, where basically they are within a broader project aimed at fostering locally based food and locally based tourism. And within this context, this reality is changing in terms of new stakeholders are entering the cooperative, and they are about to find a new way to engage in a better way tourism with the activities carried out by this dairy consortium at the local level. So far, and I will conclude with my presentation, we have started field-based research in November last year, and we have been collecting both primary and secondary data in order to have a better understanding of the area, of the actors, and of the needs of the actors at the local scale. And we will start with more activities from September on, where we will organize living lab involving the two the stakeholders in the two areas, in order to figure out and came up together with some solution that could be helpful for local stakeholders in order to foresee new development of tourism related to cheese sector at the local scale. Thank you so much.
Okay, I would like to conclude this session, but before concluding it, we will watch a short video presentation by Luca Cesari, a food historian, author and essayist, author also of the well-known History of Pasta, published in 2021, and he also works as a food educator. Today, he will talk about the phenomenon of home restaurants as a strategy for territorial promotion. ではこのセッションを終わりたいと思いますが、その前にルカ・チェザリ氏による短い録画プレゼンテーションをご覧いただきます。チェザリ氏は食の歴史家、作家、エッセイストであり、2021年に出版されたパスタの歴史という本で広く知られています。 現在は食の教育活動にも力を注いでいます。本日はホームレストランという現象を通じた地域価値の創出戦略についてご紹介いただきます。
Hello everyone. My name is Luca Cesari. I am a food historian and a PhD candidate at the University of Sassari. My research focus is on the relationship between food and territory in Italy and in Japan. I contribute regularly to the several magazines like Gambe Rosso, and I am a columnist of Il Sole 24 Ore. I have also published books on the history of pasta and the history of pizza. I am very happy to share this presentation with you today about a big issue, overtourism in Japan, and how a simple idea, home restaurant, could help us to solve it. As many of you know, Japan has become one of the top destinations for tourists from all over the world. This is wonderful, of course, but this is also a serious problem for local communities, cultural heritage, and the environment. Many famous spots now are overcrowded. Local people are losing the peaceful life they used to have, and small shops disappeared and are replaced by souvenir stores for tourists only. So, how can we welcome visitors without destroying what makes Japan so special? Japan, just like Italy, has built a strong food reputation around the world. Dishes like sushi have made Japanese cuisine famous everywhere, and today food is one of the main reasons, maybe even the number one reasons, why so many tourists choose to visit Japan. People come not just for the temples or landscape, but to test something unique, a cuisine that is elegant, healthy, refined, and often surprisingly affordable. One idea is to grow home restaurant. In simple words, a home restaurant is when someone opens their private house and kitchen to guests and cook a meal for them. It's more than just eating, it's sharing family recipes, cultural heritage, personal history, and creating connection. In Italy, for example, there is a great network called Le Cesarine. It started in Bologna 20 years ago and now has more than 1,500 hosts in over 1,500 towns and villages, including many places far from the big tourist cities. Cesarine attract guests mainly from the USA, Australia, the UK, Canada, and Northern Europe. In 2024, they hosted more than 30,000 Americans alone. They work closely with Slow Food Association to protect traditional cuisine and support small communities. So, this is the site of cesarine.com, and as you can see, there is a cooking class section with a map of Italy where you can find the activities spread across the country with a huge choice region by region. There is also a section dedicated to tours where you can choose to visit a cheesemaker in Arona or enjoy wine and food testing in Masseria in Correggio, not exactly the usual tourist spot. And finally, there are a culinary experience with the local dishes in Orbetello, Bagnaia, Partinico, Paganica, Gagliata, and so on, outside of the big tourist cities in Italy. On the Discover the Farmer section, there are many producers who partnered with Cesarine that you can visit, like this olive oil maker in Chiaramonte Gulfi. This is exactly the kind of model we can adapt in Japan. We could encourage people to open their homes in rural areas, suburbs, and lesser-known towns. This would give a tourist a reason to leave crowded places and discover part of Japan that they would never see otherwise. Right now, with the financial uncertainty we are facing, very few entrepreneurs are willing to take the risk of opening a restaurant far from the busy tourist areas. And among those, few who do most struggle to survive. Many small restaurants in rural areas or smaller towns try to adapt by offering a safe menu. Typical dishes that tourists already know and can find in any big cities. But this actually makes them less competitive, not more, because they lose their local identity. A home restaurant can operate with minimum cost and very low risk for the host. This is exactly where a home restaurant can make a difference. They don't compete on price or popularity. They offer something that no regular restaurant can give, a real, personal, unforgettable experience. Home restaurant works well with the sharing economy. Not only does it create income for the host themselves, but it also supports the wider community. Guests can also find a place to sleep on Airbnb or share transport with car sharing service. So the money they spend goes directly to local families instead of big hotel chains or tourist shops. It also helps small local producers and shopkeepers, the people who provide the ingredient for this meal. Often, hosts take her guests to meet this producer or shop at their neighbor market, introducing them to local specialties they wouldn't discover on their own. But the biggest benefit is not economic, it's human. Eating in someone's house breaks the wall between locals and visitors. It helps travelers understand the real life, the food culture, and the history behind every dish. For the host, it's a source of pride to share local recipe that might disappear. In Italy, home restaurants operate in a kind of legal grey area. This has actually helped them grow because they haven't been forced to follow all the rules that apply to a regular restaurant or commercial food business. Thanks to this flexibility, the number of home restaurants has grown a lot, and today there are over 20,000 across over the country. But not everyone is happy about this. The Italian Federation of Public Restaurant, known as FIPE, Federazione Italiana Pubblici Esercizi, has been asking for years to create a law that would treat home restaurant the same as any other food business. Nowadays, the only legal proposal is a draft law from 2017. But if that law is ever approved, it would basically shut down the entire home restaurant model. It would add heavy restrictions and limits without offering any real alternative or support for rural tourism. In short, it risks killing a system that works without giving anything better in return. In Japan, we already have a good example of how to adapt the concept in this country. One is Hitchhike, a Tokyo-based platform that connects amateur or semi-professional cooks with travelers. Instead of always using private houses, they often rent shared kitchen or community spaces, which are fully legal and safe. Sometimes, especially in rural areas, meals still happen at home, but that's pretty rare. Hitchhike started in 2013 and today it organizes not only meals but also neighborhood dinners, food education programs in school and community events. It helps locals show their culinary heritage in a modern way. It's a hybrid model that respects Japanese culture and law but keeps the spirit of home restaurant alive. Meeting, cooking, eating, sharing stories. I'd like to thank Professor Ishida from Ritsumeikan University in Kyoto, who also spoke in this meeting. Thanks to him, I had the chance to visit Okinawa at the end of May. And what I experienced there was really close to the idea of a perfect home restaurant. There, people have a deep tradition of sharing food, and a local couple, Manna and Chizu, welcomed us in their wooden house. We cooked the pork cutlet, the typical Japanese tonkatsu, make sashimi all together, prepared the classic stew named nabe, and the Okinawa soba together, following Manna's family recipe. We also visited the fish market with them, usually close to the tourists, and learned about local vegetables used in the gastronomy of the island. Finally, we took time to visit the last local sugarcane producer who still processes everything by hand. It wasn't a big tourist attraction, but for us, it was the most powerful way to connect with the true spirit of Okinawa. Experience like this outside the big cities and the beach resort could attract a new type of tourist. Responsible, curious, and ready to spend more for true quality and human contact. With appropriate support of hosts with good platforms, clear training, and simple legal steps, this model could spread naturally and help rural Japan grow without losing its identity. In conclusion, Japanese needs to rethink how to balance tourism and community life. Home restaurant, if adapted to fit Japanese culture, could be a powerful tool. Local food has huge potential to draw tourists away from the usual spot and help reduce over-tourism in a natural, sustainable way. Thank you so much for listening. I hope we can keep talking and working together to find smart solutions for a better future for travel in Japan.
Thanks, Luca. And now we can finally move to the final part of today's program, a series of 4 presentations focused on Japanese initiatives in rural and sustainable tourism. In order to give this part a decent amount of time, we decided to cancel the Q&A and let the presenter present without anxiety of being buried here forever. それでは本日のプログラムの最後のセッションに移ります。最後のセッションの発表者の皆様、大変お待たせいたしました。ここでは日本における農村観光及びサステイナブルツーリズムの実践例に終点を当てた4つの発表をご紹介いたします。The first presentation will be given by Watanabe Megumi-san, member of the board of directors of Slow Food International and president of Slow Food Nippon since 2019. Her contribution is titled Regenerative Tourism in the Future of Rural Communities, Reimagining Relationships Through Food. 最初のご登壇者は渡辺めぐみ氏です。渡辺氏はスローフードインターナショナル理事会メンバーであり、2019年よりスローフード日本の会長を務めていらっしゃいます。本日のご講演タイトルは、再生型ツーリズムと農村コミュニティの未来。食を通じた関係性の再構築です。Let's begin with Mrs. Watanabe's talk. それでは渡辺氏のご発表から始めたいと思います。どうぞよろしくお願いします。
Hello. Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me today. Thank you, Professor Garibaldi, for inviting me here and the other fellow speakers here. I am not an expert in tourism at all, but I am here to talk about rural tourism as a solution, but to challenge how it's being done and to ask what regeneration should really look like on the ground from real people. And you guys are the experts from tourism sector, tourism academia, or tourism industry. But I'm coming from the food world, from the field, literally. In fact, I have a family who cultivates rice and soybeans with more than 1,000 years of history in Chiba Prefecture. So I hope to share something grounded and constructive from a slightly different angle. So I'd like to give you an overview of what's happening in rural Japan, which would give you deeper understanding of the following case histories after me. Rural revitalization is a hot topic, obviously. Governments, agencies, and influencers often see tourism as a savior of the rural revitalization. But we need to pause and ask, what role should tourism really play in the communities? Who does it serve? And what exactly are we trying to regenerate here? Is it about economic income, ecosystem recovery, or cultural revival? We must approach tourism not as a universal solution. We cannot be dependent on tourism because who knows if there's another pandemic happening in the near future. But as a tool, and ask how it can be used responsibly for both travelers and local people. So what's happening in rural Japan? It's not anything new. There are 4 main issues in summary. It's written in super aging, but it's actually depopulation. So population decline and super aging and loss of food culture and biodiversity and weakening primary industries, so like the farmers and producers. So as you can see, the depopulation is happening everywhere in Japan. So more than half of the population reside in metropolitan area, either in Tokyo, Nagoya, or Osaka. All the other area is depopulated. You can see the map on the right side. There are so many areas with like greater, like more than 0.9% of decrease in these years. And aging population, it's really drastic in Japan. You can see the aging population in Europe. It's pretty much aging as well. But if you see the map of Asia, Japan is pitch black. So we have overall numbers like 28.7% of people who are more than 65 years old. And it's a shocking number that the average age, it's average age, not the maximum age, the average age of farmers in Japan, it's 68.4 years old. It's average, you know. And the food processing facility decline is also massive. Back in the 1980, miso factories, there were 3,200 miso factories existed. But in 2022, it's 70% declined. It's less than 1,000. Same goes for soy sauce. It's it's less than half now. So the local economy, so people migrating to the urban area, and those people used to buy the products from these local producers, but the people are going away, the factories are closing down, it's obvious. And there is a statistic that says more than half of the municipalities of Japan they are endangered cities. So as you can see, the cities in red or even brighter colors, they are estimated to be disappeared in the near future. So tourism, we want to talk about tourism, but I want to start from the rural revitalization policy of Japan. So a lot of measurements are taking place for rural revitalization within the country, and especially I want to mention the word kankei jinko. It's translated into related population, and it was introduced as a way to describe people who develop an ongoing, meaningful relationship with a specific place, even if they don't live there. So they don't register, they are not registered resident in a certain area, but they have an ongoing relationship with a certain area. So this concept has gained traction, especially among urban Japanese who now maintain ties with rural areas through repeat visits, volunteering, remote working, or food-related connections. So they have like a plot of rice field that they can go every weekend to cultivate, things like that. And thanks to this concept, more and more urban people in Japan are forming long-term relationship with rural areas, not as residents though, but as an engaged supporters. And I believe this idea has great potential if it's extended to international visitors as well. So what if tourism wasn't just about visiting once, but becoming part of the place's extended community? So what if regeneration meant being remembered and remembering across the borders? So related population isn't just a domestic idea, I think. It can be a guide for a new way of thinking about inbound tourism as well. So industrialization and mass distribution have anonymized the relationship, I would say. And it same goes for tourism. So overcrowded tourism, mass tourism, like the tourism just to like collect stamps or to collect Insta-worthy pictures, it's all anonymous, right? But by opening like the communities up, opening up the producers' minds, telling stories and fostering real connections, it can be relational tourism. So I think the paradigm is to shift from the anonymous tourism to relational tourism. And gastronomy tourism is recently gaining a lot of attention, of course, and the tourism agency of Japan has just started the supporting program for gastronomy tourism a few years back. It's a good thing, but the focus is often on events, restaurants, or a chef-driven experiences, not the producers. I am from Slow Food, and Slow Food is here to support the farmers, the producers from the ground. We have a slogan, farmers first. So many small-scale producers are kind of left behind from this narrative. And they can't host people directly or explain their work without any help. So to realize the promise of gastronomy tourism, we must bring producers from the margins to the center, the core of the gastronomy. And what kind of regeneration are we talking about? So if we say a regenerative tourism, it's often associated with like an activities that directly regenerate ecosystem or an environment, like turtle conservation, beach cleaning, that kind of activities. But it has a limit, right? Like it's a limited number of people who actually voluntarily choose that kind of experience. And regeneration should be more approachable and accessible to the visitors. But I think by empowering and by becoming an ally for the producers of the local area that support regenerative and agroecological methods is indirectly regenerating the ecosystem. So by engaging tourism in this narrative, you can actually call it as a regenerative tourism. So when tourists endorse regenerative producers, like by visiting, learning, and purchasing, they become allies. This can offer both emotional and financial support to producers. The act of visiting, if designed well, can itself be regenerative. And for small producers, I know for a fact, because I have a husband that is a farmer, recognition is powerful. So they every day they touch the ground, they work on the fields. They tend to feel alone. They tend to feel like lesser so many times. But when there's somebody who visit them and give reassurance to them, it becomes a very powerful empowerment, and it means more than the financial component. So yeah, producers, especially the micro scale ones, I'm talking about like really the vegetable farmers or rice farmers or the people who are actually on the ground working, a fisherman. Those micro scale ones cannot host travelers on their own, obviously. They may lack language skills, time, or even confidence. They don't even know how important their work is. That's where local mediators come in. So I put the icon of mediator in the middle in the previous slide. People who know the producers in person and can translate their work into travel experience or experience, like educational experience too. These are not traditional tour guides, I think. They are value translators who are deeply rooted also in the same community of the producers. Supporting and training these people is essential for long-term success. We have been attempting some things in Japan as well. Like we have Slow Food Travel project that's active in Italy. I think you guys are aware of it. But Slow Food Nippon in Japan, we are starting a new project called Slow Sake. It's actually inspired by Slow Wine project that's been going around for years and years in Italy. The totally same concept, but with sake, because as wine, the same goes for the wine industry in Italy. The ecosystem and the irrigation system and all the rural development is based on rice cultivation in Japan. And now the average age of farmers is going up, and no young people are actually successing the industry, the rice cultivation. Sake breweries play a huge role in the villages, like the wine breweries do in local hill villages in small town, right? So they are the safeguard of the local ecosystem, local rice production, local water conservation, ritual, festivals, everything. And so we try to empower small-scale sake breweries so that the ecosystem, the local ecosystem and local culture can be nourished at the same time. So regeneration isn't about outsiders rescuing rural areas, like coming from somewhere else. It must start from the community. It's about recognizing the value that already exists and nurturing it. You will now hear from people who do exactly that, building bridges between travelers or visitors and communities in Kamikatsu in Tokushima and in Ishikawa. They are not tourism agencies, nor DMO, nor institutions like all the other examples we heard today. It's rather very, very small scale, but I thought it would give you an idea of very raw, local, community-oriented way of approaching tourism. Their work shows that regeneration begins with real local-tied relationship. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Thank you, Megumi. You tried to steal my job by presenting the next presenters, but I will do my best to have a meaning being here. Next, we will explore a fascinating case, Ino Kamikatsu, a zero-waste village nestled in the beautiful mountains of Shikoku. This initiative will be presented as a case study in zero waste and educational tourism, and our speaker is Kana Watando, co-founder and director of Ino Kamikatsu. 続いてご紹介するのは、四国の美しい山々に囲まれたゼロウェイストの村上勝町の取り組みです。プロジェクト名は飯野上勝。本日は共同設立者及びディレクターである金渡氏によりゼロウェイストと教育型ツーリズムの事例紹介としてご発表いただきます。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you so much. Oh, there's a big timer here, so I will do my best to stay with the time. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you, Megumi, so much for setting the context. Everyone here has been talking a lot about the macro perspective of what's happening in your countries, what's happening in cities, but I'm really excited to take you to rural Japan. Maybe some of you have been to rural Japan from Italy, but I'm going to take you to a small mountain village in Shikoku. This is a photo taken outside my window. So I was actually born and raised in Canada. My mom is Japanese, my dad's from Hong Kong, and I moved to Kamikatsu village 5 years ago. It's the first place I've ever lived in Japan, the only place I've ever lived in Japan. And I live here now with my partner, Sil, who's right there. Hi, Sil. And together we started an educational tourism program. We actually both did our master's in Europe. We did an Erasmus Mundus in tourism, in sustainability and tourism. So this is a topic that's really close to my heart. And we both value mobility or travel, the ability to exchange ideas and connect people. And so that's very important to us. But we've also seen the detriments because we studied in Spain, very close to Barcelona, and we would walk to school and we would see signs that say like no tourists or go home, like the things that you see in the media we saw in person. So it was very conflicting, like what is the role of travel or tourism? A slide. But so Kamikatsu, we found Kamikatsu because we were interested in sustainability. So when you search Japan and sustainability, you will likely see the name Kamikatsu because Kamikatsu is known as the first zero waste village of Japan. It's a very small rural area in the mountains of Shikoku. And what zero waste means is that we have an intensive recycling system where we sort our waste into over 40 categories. So there's a common misconception that we don't produce any waste, but that's not true. We try to reduce and reuse our waste, and we see waste actually as a resource. So we try our best to do recycling. And so a lot of people also from abroad want to learn about what Kamikatsu is doing. In the past, the system was just open burning and clearly huge health detriments and bad for the environment. So there was a community effort to start recycling and reducing the waste. So this was at the very beginning. And now we have a beautiful center that's kind of an icon of Kamikatsu town. But a lot of people come to Kamikatsu, like myself and Sil did. We came to Kamikatsu, but there was no information in English. And it felt like a missed opportunity because there was so much desire to learn about Kamikatsu, desire to learn about zero waste, but no one to communicate that information. And so we started to live there. And as we lived there, we realized that zero waste is much more than recycling. It's not just about what they do to separate their waste, but it's really about how people interact with materials, how people consume, and also the rural lifestyle, because actually the rural lifestyle is very connected to zero waste. So we created Ino to bridge that gap, to bring people together who wanted to learn about Kamikatsu in English, but also wanted to understand the rural lifestyles that contribute to the sustainability that was the foundation that built zero waste in Kamikatsu. So like Megumi said, we are a mediator between outside and inside, and we really see ourselves as a bridge between outside and inside. We were awarded the Japan Travel Awards in 2024 last year for our program focusing on education. We were also awarded with a prize in circularity. And I think when a lot of us think about circularity or circular, we think about like materials or technology, but actually circularity is about our lifestyles and the people who consume or use those materials and technology. So that's something that we're very proud of. And Ino, I didn't explain before, but Ino is actually the local dialect for return home. So we made that our business name because we wanted people to feel at home in Kamikatsu. And actually before we became a kind of social enterprise or a business focus on educational programs and tourism, we started out with volunteer and internships. So there, as Maggie mentioned, there's a huge population decline and aging population, and that's also true in Kamikatsu. And what that means is that there are not enough people to help with rice farming, tea farming, many things that require labor. And so we decided to set up volunteer and internships. But then right after COVID came. And so that was a huge shock to us. It also gave us this moment to pause and reflect, like, how can we do something that will be financially sustainable, socially sustainable? How can we collaborate with local people to make something that can continue to support Kamikatsu in a meaningful way? So then we decided to rethink the model, and then we created programs that we are co-creating with farmers, craftspeople, community, and we're really not doing this just for visitors. So something that's really important that we feel is like, we are not making a service for people to come and consume. We are making a program that's co-created with the visitors. So we really want to value this idea of co-creation and do things with the local community. I am maybe a little bit further away from food than most of you here, but when I moved to Kamikatsu, I realized that my life is interdependent and so connected to food. When you're in the countryside, our village doesn't have any convenience store, so we cook ourselves. We create relationships with farmers, with producers, and for our guests, we have to feed our guests, and so we have to work with local people who are chefs. We bring in chefs as well and create together food and amazing cultural food experiences. And so, you know, through the program, we also are very connected to food. A really special food culture in Kamikatsu is actually awabancha tea. It's a fermented tea in Japan, and Japan is very well known for tea, but maybe you've never heard of a fermented tea. There's actually only 4 fermented teas in all of Japan, and 3 of the 4 fermented teas are in Shikoku Island, and 1 of them is in Kamikatsu and the surrounding areas around Kamikatsu. So this is a kind of tea that was passed on through the generations. It's only consumed at the household level, and so a lot of people outside of Kamikatsu or Tokushima don't know about awabancha, but we see this as something that is really valuable, and what we want to do through our program is also add value so people can learn about these cultural heritage and share it when they leave Kamikatsu. That's Sil and me. We also farm tea. And yeah, we work with the local people. There are many local producers, but very, very, very small scale. And maybe you've heard of the word satoyama. Satoyama is a Japanese word that means like the landscape where humans and nature coexist. So it's this idea that humans rely on nature, and in turn, we care for nature. So it's this kind of coexistence and harmonious relationship with nature. And so when we think about Satoyama, actually, the ideas of sustainability have long existed before zero waste, and this is part of the things that we want to communicate through our educational programs. So rice farming and tea making, the things that we do together as a business, but also with our guests, showcase the kind of ideas about sustainability and circularity that we want to share. Okay. And rural tourism in Japan faces many challenges. So it seems like, oh, that's great, let's just connect people and then have tourism. But in our experience, we've seen that there are many, many challenges. Language, of course, is an obvious barrier. Access is another obvious barrier, but there are also difficulties with working with people who tourism is not their main business. A lot of people are farmers, they're producers, they don't have time. And like Megumi-san mentioned, it's not always about money. And so every relationship we have with the teachers in our program is different, and we have to manage these relationships. And there's also a limited capacity, small scale, and so we can't bring big groups, nor do we want to, but bring big groups to these places. So we need to balance the needs and expectations of both the locals and our guests. And we want to move away, I think I mentioned this before, but move away from consumption, where we're having a kind of surface level experience where we pay money and consume a place or a service. We want to move towards co-creation, where the people who come are as valuable as the people who they're learning from. And so together we create this experience, and that asks a lot of guests, because it asks guests to be responsible for their experience as well. But yes, one more minute, and we we see ourselves as a community-driven approach to kind of tourism and to education, where our role is to facilitate conversations between locals and guests, and we want to facilitate these conversations across generations, across cultures, and we want to see the things that we're doing as creating long-term relationships and mutual benefits. Of course, that idea of exchange is always a little bit difficult. It's not going to be one for one, or you give this and I get this, but that we're creating these long-term relationships between the people who come and the people living in Kamikatsu. Something that Sil and I talk often about is that, like, you know, sustaining or sustainable tourism is about not making things worse. But when we talk about regeneration, we're talking about adding value or creating new value. And so that's our hope with the work that we do, is that by facilitating these conversations and dialogue, we create a space to co-create together and to care for people in place. So this is just some photos. Local farmers, chef dinners, planting rice together with university students, bringing people to local producers. This is a mushroom farmer. Yes. And so when we talk about rural revitalization, tourism isn't the solution, but it's a way to create kind of recognition and value to local people and what local people have been doing for a long time and passing on through their generations. And we hope to be this bridge where we can connect culture, ideas, food, place, people. And that's it. Yes, 1 second. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Kana, for this very interesting presentation. Following, Graham Davis will introduce us to Ishinoko Kitchen. Graham is a designer and producer of creative projects, and Ishinoko Kitchen is a food-based education and tourism project rooted in the rural village of Takigahara in Ishikawa. It brings together local producers, foragers, hunters, and chefs from around the world to explore Japan's seasonal ingredients and food culture through immersive programs. 次にお発表いただくのはグラハム・ダビス氏です。ダビス氏はクリエイティブプロジェクトのデザイナーおよびプロデューサーであり、彼の手がける石の子キッチンは石川県滝ヶ原村に根ざした食をテーマにした教育観光プロジェクトです。このプロジェクトでは地元の生産者や山菜採集者、狩猟者、そして世界中のシェフたちが協力し、日本の四季折々の食材と食文化を没入型プログラムを通じて探求しています。どうぞよろしくお願いします。
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, thank you everyone for having me, particularly to Megumi for inviting me and everyone involved in this project. It's been so amazing to hear, at the macro level, what's happening in Italy and Japan and the kind of crossovers. I have to say, I have real imposter syndrome here because I'm coming really at it from, yes, I live in a small village, kind of similar to how Kana mentioned, and my project is about 1 year old. So this project is just going to be sharing about what we're trying to achieve and as a little case study of rural connections to Japan. And I'm hoping that maybe afterwards, please ask me some questions and give me some feedback, because that would be really great. Yes, so Ishinoko Kitchen, I've written here, food as a tool for educational experiences. Oh, okay, fancy. So just as an overview, I'm just going to share about the background of this project in the location and how it came about, how we took it from basically what started as a community festival and grew it out into now what is an annual food program, and then giving in a bit more detail about what the actual programs that we have throughout the year, and then sharing a little bit about the business model and the challenges and the way we try to incorporate it and bring it all together. Yes, so our background, this is the mountain immediately behind the village that I live that I often would hike. And the founders are myself, Graham, and Anna, who can't join us today. She's Danish, I'm British, and we both moved to Takiyahara about 5 years ago. It's a small village. I'll explain a little bit more in detail. Anna is really the head of the curriculum and academic side of a program that we do. She has a background in food projects, working around the world, the Edible Schoolyard. She worked at a farmer's market in Tokyo. She was interning at Slow Foods International. So she really comes with the kind of academic connection. And then I'm just living in the village and working as a person to try and bring it all together and connect the kind of producers and people together with it. Yes, so what is Ishinoko Kitchen? It's a food-based educational project. I hadn't really considered it so touristy up until now, but within the context of a day and the talk session, I kind of started to unravel it a little bit around that. But our main activities include chef residencies, study tours, organizing community dinners with the local community, kind of foraging retreats, producers visits. Honestly, hearing Kana speak, I felt very many similarities. And I would say the main focus here with me is more on food and the terroir and the ingredients, essentially. So the location of Ishinoko Kitchen is kind of in the Hokuriku region of Japan, so sort of in between Osaka and Tokyo, in Ishikawa Prefecture, based in the village of Takiyahara, but we spread out our activities kind of around the Hokuriku area. I kind of call it the Goldilocks area of Japan. This is a kind of not so technical term, but I find that it's just far north enough to get the kind of northern, the food culture that you would maybe associate with the north, as well as just being just south enough to kind of have this really nice balance, as well as having Hakusan, one of the, a very tall mountain leading directly into the sea. You get a very good balance of ingredients, and it's very a flourishing place for produce and producers. Yes, so this is Ishikawa Prefecture, mostly known for Kanazawa city, which is quite touristy and is potentially becoming slowly more and more over-touristy. But the specific location that I'm in is Takiyahara and Takiyahara Farm. This is a little introduction to the project there. There's a kind of a hostel accommodation place that when I first visited, I stayed at here. And then I kind of never left. So I've lived in this village. I'm not in the hostel. I have my own house there now. But this was the kind of gateway to me there. This is also an interesting project that I would encourage you to check out. It's basically the rebuilding of an old farmhouse in the Japanese countryside as a hostel to allow visitors to come. And specifically, the work that I've been doing in the village is organizing this festival called Ishinoko Festival. This is a festival that combines the local villagers. It's a very much aging population, as Megumi explained, is happening in Japan. I think the average age is over 69 or so in the village itself. So the matsuri that used to exist in the village is no longer there. All of these kinds of things. And so this festival is a collaboration with the local community to bring together something special there for the community, and it's very much focused on food and music and arts. It's kind of an arts festival for the village. Yes, so that's a little bit about the background. Moving into Ishinoko Kitchen, this is kind of related, I think, to a lot to what Megumi and Kana were saying. For us, the most important people are the producers. They are the community, and they are the teachers for us. We are not the teachers. We just aim to connect these people that we believe have such strong passion for the food and such deep knowledge of the local area and the skills and ability and tradition passed down through the years to produce some really great tasting food. These are our producers, and we really respect them and want to try and produce the program with putting them first. And I wanted to explain a little bit, okay, so with producers, there's lots of different types of producers. And I know Slow Foods has, good, clean, fair, these kinds of things with values. There was farmers first. There's different ways to do it. I just tried to list out here the kind of things that we felt were really important about the producers that we involve in the project. But essentially, it's about community, it's about co-creation, it's about curiosity is really, really important to us. And within that, yes, we have producers that we would break down into kind of primary producers, the people who are actually going out, saying, hunting in the forest, working, diving in the ocean, going out and foraging or growing vegetables. Kind of secondary producers who would be fermenting, making sakes or traditional. Ishikawa has a very rich fermentation food culture there of fermented fishes. And things, and then finally the restaurants or the locations of cuisine, the people who take these products and then serve it as food. So just to give you an idea of who are the kind of people that we work with, Ishinoko Kitchen, an example of a primary producer would be Miwa-san. So she is Ama-san. She grew up in Fukui, moved to Tokyo, and then moved back because she wanted to reconnect with the heritage of the Ama-san tradition in Fukui. I'm not sure if you know about it. It's a tradition of female divers that go back hundreds of years in Japan. And so she works tirelessly, basically, to try and not only preserve this tradition, but also produce the best tasting seaweed that she can and all sorts of things that the sea has to offer. And then Higashi-san Brewery, it's a sake brewery, very, very small scale brewery, again, focused on using all local ingredients in Ishikawa, very limited scale production, so they only sell in Ishikawa. And so, yeah, you can't get it outside of there. That would be an example of a secondary one. And then the tertiary producer would be, for example, Nimaida-san, a sushi chef, who we work very closely with, who's very knowledgeable, has worked his entire life in the fishing industry and also as a sushi chef, and is very curious and passionate to share that and pass that on with people. So with these producers that are in this such amazing area, what kind of programs, what kind of things that we do? So when we go into the kind of teaching methods, and this is why, when I introduced, is it tourism, is it education? I'm still not exactly sure. It kind of feels in between the two for me, but it's really about education, and we really emphasize, I think as Kana was saying, the people who are coming, money can't buy these experiences. There has to be an exchange of value that the producer can also feel, that goes beyond monetary value. So this kind of idea of curiosity being really, really important from the visitor, from the student, and a willingness to learn and create their own learning experience. And in addition to that, then field-based education, so actually being out in the field, not lecture theatres. You can probably tell that I'm not so comfortable in these kinds of environments. I'm more out in the field, working in those kinds of places, and creating the own experience for learning. So it would be these kinds of experiences of going into the forest and learning about doing some mushroom foraging in the mountains of Hakusan. It would be, for example, as I mentioned with Miwa-san, she has to process huge amounts of wakame, which she does by hand, very intricately when it comes to this season of processing seaweed, and she would appreciate some help with that. So it's a way of connecting people so that she can get a little bit of help with her produce, and outsiders can get an insight into how it's operating. It would be like coming into this sushi restaurant and getting to learn how to make sushi from a sushi master. And these kinds of community dinners where visiting chefs will come and have the opportunity to learn about the local ingredients and the local terroir, and then produce that as a community meal that the local community can come in, and that can be local producers, and eaters can come and enjoy that in maybe new ways that they hadn't experienced. Yes, so this is kind of overview in the programs. I'm running out of time, so I'll just keep it moving. These are the kind of examples of programs that we've engaged in. So we hosted the study trip for UNISC, the Slow Foods University, last year, and we will do so again this year. So this was a 10-day study trip, mostly in Ishikawa Prefecture. We also spent some time in Tokyo, and we traveled around. This was where we had the experience with the sushi. We do the festival program. So we have a kind of rotating kitchen of chefs coming in using only local ingredients. So all of the ingredients that are used in this kitchen are sourced within, the 10, 15 kilometers of the festival. And we just have a revolving kitchen throughout 3 days with 1,500 festival goers, with the idea of if people can come meet the producers at the kitchen, the chefs can cook things up in new ways. It's just a really beautiful space for new conversations and new ideas to come about. Then we'd have visiting chefs coming and cooking community dinners. Cignale, actually, an Italian word. I think it means inoshishi, wild boar. It's a restaurant in Tokyo. They had some chefs that wanted to come and learn about the local cuisine or local ingredients. So they were actually Japanese. It's not all just foreign, is the point I want to make here. It's not all just foreign visitors. It's Japanese people too, also because when being in Tokyo, you do need to have the access to these local producers. And then it would be organizing things like chef residencies or kind of retreat-based things centered around the accommodation. Yes, okay, I'm running out of time, but I will just try and wrap up very quickly. This is a kind of mapping overview of the kind of people that we aim to bring together. So as I mentioned, the producers are really key to us here, and then the students. So this is where I've written tourists in inverted commas, but we really like to see them as students as part of an educational program with this kind of value exchange that goes beyond money. And then this is just a little bit about our funding. We rely heavily on kind of grant funding to make all of this work. And we do kind of like tailor-made solutions for companies that might come and visit. And we aim to use that to basically keep the operations of this running. Future development. We would like to have a regular program or a regular curriculum, potentially a school that would be running. Regular meals, maybe a restaurant where producers can share their ingredients with the community. We're working on a documentary project. I have a book here that maybe I can show afterwards. These kind of archival projects that we're working on, and essentially expanding collaboration within Japan. Yes, many challenges. But the vision is building this kind of framework to connect the local producers and local community together with visitors and outside in a way that co-creates and adds value that generates something that's more than, that can go beyond just pure monetary exchange, essentially. Yes, so thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much indeed, Graham. Now our final presentation of this day will introduce yet another perspective within the vast world of rural tourism, historical roads as cultural resources in Japan, the potential of community-based initiatives. Our speaker is Daniel Dante Sosedo Segami, a faculty member at Ritsumeikan University, whose research focuses on the relationship between identity and material culture, particularly on how different actors express their identity in relation to archaeological ruins at individual, regional, and national levels. そして本日の最後のご発表は、農村観光の世界におけるさらなる可能性を提示するものです。タイトルは、日本における歴史的街道の文化資源としての活用、地域主体の取り組みに見る可能性。発表者は立命館大学の教授ダニエル・ダンテ・サウセード・セガミ氏です、先生です。先生の研究テーマは、アイデンティティと物質文化との関係であり、特に遺跡をめぐって個人、地域、国家レベルでアイデンティティがどのように表現されるかに焦点を当てています。どうぞよろしくお願い申し上げます。
Thank you. Well, first I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to talk here, especially University of Bergamo, which has a strong ties with the College of Policy Science at Ritsumeikan University. My research is basically related to archaeology and anthropology, which kind of seems very far from what we have been talking today. But actually, I try to see everything from the side of heritage, cultural heritage, right? So with a team of other researchers, we are looking for understanding how to put together intangible heritage, tangible heritage, in a way that actually does not make it like too hard, like the term of heritage, but in another way. Okay. So today I'm going to present a bit about what we have been doing in Japan. So, first I will just mention a bit about the kind of research we have begun from 2021. Which is about tourism and historical roads, not only in Japan, but actually in the world. We have been doing some research also in Peru. Our idea is that not only sites, right, specific historical or archaeological sites could be interesting, but actually the places that connect them. Why is this important? Because most of these roads, canals, ancient things that have been being used from the past are still used until now. And so they still have some different value than other sites that could be abandoned. So as you know, in the world there are several roads that are very important for tourism from Spain, also from my country in Peru. But here in Japan, I will focus on this one, the Kumano-Kodo road. So here, this is a very interesting road. I don't know if you had the chance to actually walk through it. It actually connects several other roads. As you see, it's a very beautiful scenery in Japan, and it's very close here. It's mostly in the Wakayama and Mie prefectures. And as you see, it connects several different shrines from different sides of the Kansai region. One of the main attractions here is usually the Kumano Nachita-Isa, which is a beautiful landscape with a waterfall. And yes, this is a site that has been designed as cultural heritage, world cultural heritage, right? So it has a lot of tourism here, and of course, a lot of commerce. But when we try to see how it works with other areas from this that are outside of the World Heritage limits, especially, for example, here on the Magose Toge. Well, Toge is the kind of passes that are between different mountain sites, right? We see that effectively there are some museums and big buildings that have been built by the government from 2004 to 2007, right? And they seem to be extremely explanatory about the characteristics of the road, but they lack a bit of the information of the people living around the area, you know? And we can actually see a connection with that, with how surrounding towns have been quite left aside from these main roads that have tourism. No? This is, for example, one of the cities, Oasis City. I actually stayed here when we were working some of the roads, and it was pretty obvious that several of the services here, it's a fishing town, were abandoned, right? I spoke with some of the tourist office people here, and they mentioned, you know, that actually there are not so many tourists coming here, and it's mostly a kind of a industrial town that, well, because of aging is starting to become abandoned. So how can we actually try to incorporate these kind of towns to a better way to actually take advantage of at least some of this heritage that they have around, okay? Well, I'm going to mention one of the examples in another area in Yamagata Prefecture, where one of my colleagues from my team works. He has been doing some work there with the local authorities, as part of the local authorities, becoming a facilitator for the activities that were proposed by local communities. So, well, we go all the way to the north of Japan, to the Yamagata Prefecture. Here we will see between which is Yamagata Prefecture and Niigata Prefecture. This area has a lot of mountains, but it also has several roads that cross these mountains that were used on different times to pass different products from even from the Edo period, even until now. well, of course, now we have more roads for cars and everything, and most of them have been abandoned and they have been used, some of them like this one, for example, as tourism, but still they have some local value. As you see, we can see here, for example, 13 of these toge, of these passes that go from one side to the other. And local people have made associations of hitchhikers to try to make it more useful as a way to attract people to come here and walk these ways. For example, the Kurosawa Pass, which is very similar to the ones we have in Kumano-Kodo with a lot of stones. It's a very beautiful pass. But to be honest, most of the passes are like the one on the right, where you only can see the road and there's no additional structures. Actually, becoming more closer to this example, to the Utsu Pass, is where we have the Tenoko community. So here, as you can see, we have several roads passing through this area. No? We have even the train passing here, but we also have the historical trail. Okay? So the historical trail is well known for the local community, but most of the people actually don't know it because they pass all the way through the modern car road without noticing the mountain part. However, this mountain road, like this you see on the right, is very interesting. It has a lot of historical value. Several important people also pass through here. And, well, this picture was actually taken in September. You still can have even snow at that time. So here, the local community, the Tenoko community, has been doing from 2004 several activities to actually retake this area and make it cleaner, taking some of the trees that didn't let the pass go beyond, and they had some support from local archaeologists. The idea was that they wanted to make this road as a really useful tourist road, but they, of course, knew that the scope of the tourism would be very regional, at most, mostly local. However, all these trekking activities they have been doing twice a year have made a different effect on them. Actually, the activities they have been doing have been focused more in the community itself. No? So the idea is that, well, most of the people that are actually members from this association are elders, right? So they want the next generation to actually know what means the road for them, the kind of information they have been collecting, how they have passed and how it has changed through time, and how they can pass that information to other generations. No? So the kind of tourism they are actually looking is more local, no? In that sense, but not in the sense of tourism per se with gaining some economical retribution, but actually getting some cultural value. So for doing that, actually, you need a lot of financial support. No? So they have been, they didn't know exactly first where to go, but with the support of the local authorities, specifically from archaeologist Takahashi, who is from this area actually, they developed several projects that were financed either by the local government or by other sources that were also found by Takahashi professor. The interesting thing is that here the archaeologist, the specialist, doesn't become the main person here, but actually a facilitator. So they gave the ideas, we want to do this kind of thing, where can we get money or financial support? He found the support, he made all the forms, for example, for them, and supported them to actually do it. So thanks to that, they could actually build, they could also do some research, but also at the same time, improve the situation of the road with, for example, some facilities like something that was really needed, like a toilet for the whole road, signaling that there was nothing around, other signaling that had more information about the site. Also on the entrance of the site, of the whole road, sorry, a kind of information site where they can meet with all the people to explain how it's going to be the trail. And also other materials to give them to the local community. So just making it short on time because I'm pretty sure you are all tired. What can I go with this idea? We believe that actually tourism could be a good option, but when we talk tourism, usually we think about either like massive tourism, international tourism here in Japan, and also in other countries, no? But to be honest, I mean, local tourism actually gives a lot of new concepts to actually encourage communities to become more social, to have more social cohesion between them, you know? So in that sense, I believe that actually instead of trying to think about cultural heritage in terms of government-based initiative and giving a top-down approach with huge installation and facilities, we can probably start going from a bottom-up approach where actually we hear the communities and what they want with their own heritage, no? And also, instead of these large projects, start with small things that they can actually manage and they know they have the possibilities and abilities to do. No? Also, instead of, as I mentioned, going from mass tourism, probably going to more local tourism where actually the kind of prestige they can get is the real value that they get and not the economical one. Also, and this is kind of a mea culpa for us, the specialists. The specialists, we need to take a step aside and actually know that even if we try to push and help the people to become active leaders of their projects, is their projects. So we cannot become the leaders or the face of that, and actually we have to give the communities that kind of face for them. No? So we need to become more actually facilitators than actually directors. And well, the specialist has to become definitely the people inside here. No? That's all for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. この実り良い一日を締めくくるにあたり、再びガリバルディ先生にご登壇いただき、本日ご紹介いただいた多様で刺激的な発表の数々を総括していただきたいと思います。ではその前に私なりの短いコメントも添えたいと思います。どうぞ。So, to conclude this intense and enriching day, I would now like to ask Roberta Garibaldi once again to take the floor and help us bring together the many stimulating and diverse contributions we have heard. After such a wide-ranging and inspiring series of reflections, one natural question arises. What now? What should we do with the seeds we have planted during this fruitful day? And what might the future of tourism look like in a world that, as recent geopolitical events have shown, is changing rapidly and sometimes in unsettling ways? How can we put persons, human feelings, human relations, communities at the center of the new tourism when we now know that business only brings only to elitarism from one hand or overcrowding on the other hand? These are not easy questions, and perhaps it is impossible to fully answer them in the few minutes we have left, but I'm sure that Roberta's concluding remarks will as always, open new paths, ideas, and collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian, and thank you all. Thank you, Christian, for the great work, and then I have to say really thank you, because he's, yes, he did a great work from Bergamo, and his heart is in Japan and in Bergamo too, and as we saw today. And thank you all for the inspiring ideas of today, for being here now, because it was a long day. And then I just, a few moments to close. I asked to AI to analyze what we did today and see what AI tell us of what are the common ideas that characterize the day. What happened? AI is a fantastic tool, but it doesn't work on the morning, just on the afternoon. Now, you know that we have on YouTube the video of our journey, and so it's divided in morning and afternoon, and so if you want, you can go there and see your presentation and share with students and the stakeholders. And so I use an inspiring slides of our friend from Sri Lanka this morning for to say something about the first part of the day, and then we see AI in the afternoon. And so it was a very nice slides speaking about recommendation for destination to mitigate displacement as lessons learned from practice. And they say that destination risk of tourism, the first thing is to measure the real situation and then conduct research to measure the level of risk. I really think that this is very important because we are from university and we really think that data-driven approach is really the best one, because only in this way we can really act to face what is happening. And AI is a great source of to manage data. And so surely I think this is the most important point. At the second point, there is managed destination, mobility, waste, accommodation, impose tax, promote alternatives. And we just spoke of some actions because it's really we need a week to analyze and face the theme of over-tourism and development of alternatives. We just went in deep on food and wine tourism to develop in rural tourism, but we can speak more about the promotion that is possible to do, how is possible to develop the tourism along all the months of the year and so on. And so a lot of things we can say. And then we spoke, provide benefits to residents and share information with residents, manage displacement for a sustainable destination. We spoke a lot about this topic and how it's important to share and to have, as the last speaker said, not to have a bottom-up approach and not up-down. And so this could be surely important to avoid the situation as we can see around the world, and we see some photos in these days. I wanted to add, we didn't speak today, but both in Japan and in Italy, for example, we try to give information to the tourists to how to be in, for example, we have different culture between Italy and Japan. And so I tell you a simple thing. I remember when a waiter came in my room in the hotel, she took off the shoes before going into the room. Instead, I used to have the shoes staying on a chair in a special room in the airport. And people from Japan say, take off your shoes. But this is a little thing that can give mean the cultural diversity. And so, for example, in Florence, we have an action, a promotion that is Respectful Florence, to give some information to the tourists what is good to suggest action to the tourists in Florence, and the same did Japan, giving some rules to international tourists. And this can be another example of a lot of things that is possible to do to face this situation. And then we go to AI that analyze our afternoon and then told us which are the development tool that we can focus and so what emerged from our presentation. Then the first that AI told us, creation of thematic itineraries, develop wine roads, flavor roads, historical roads that guide visitors through the territory, highlighting local producer wineries and farm stays. Second point, certification and quality marks, support and promote products with certification of origin or local quality marks. This strengthens the identity of a territory and guarantees an authentic experience for the tourist. Third point, integrate packages, create offers that combine food and wine with other forms of tourism, cultural, nature, wellness, tourism, immersive experiences and workshop. So this can allow tourists to connect deeply with the destination and its traditions. And support, another point, support for local agriculture and support supply chains. Prioritize purchasing raw materials from local producers. This not only guarantees the authenticity of the products offered, but also directly support the rural economy. And then involvement of local communities, sustainable flow management, heritage conservation. So these are the main points that we obtain from this afternoon, and this can be some points developing research together and some actions that we can jointly propose to our government to have a more sustainable future for our destination, for our tourism. Thank you so much to everybody, to the colleague of University of Bergamo to have the possibility to do this and to have you here today. And thank you to Italy for this incredibly fantastic pavilion. Thank you. Bye.